Chapter 676. Qin Yu released a provocative spirit energy towards a cave, and there was an angry hissing sound in the cave. A huge snake crawled out of the cave. Ning Shu was disgusted when he saw the snake. Why is it a snake? Let's change the target. The pitch-black snake raised its head and flicked its tongue, looking at Ning Shu and Qin Yu who were in midair. When the snake saw Qin Yu, its scales stood up and it quickly crawled back into its cave. It was obviously afraid of Qin Yu. Qin Yu controlled the snake and threw it towards Ning Shu while he teleported to the side. When Ning Shu saw the giant snake coming at her, she turned and ran. When the giant snake hit the ground, the whole earth seemed to shake. The snake wanted to run, but it and Ning Shu were locked in Qin Yu's enchantment. Ning Shu felt like he was suffocating when he was locked in with a snake. He raised his fist and punched the snake's head. But when he punched the snake's head, it felt like he was punching a tire. It didn't hurt the snake at all, and the rebound force was so strong that Ning Shu's lungs hurt. The monster's body was too strong. Ning Shu released his chi, and the coiling dragon fought with the snake while Ning Shu punched. Ning Shu felt like he still needed to find a suitable weapon. With strong strength and a weapon, he would be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. The snake's defense was very strong, and the scales on its body were impenetrable. Ning Shu had no choice but to grab the snake's scales and pull. The scales were separated from the snake's body, and smelly blood came out. The snake roared in pain, and its body shook violently. It turned around and attacked Ning Shu with all its strength. Ning Shu jumped and attacked the place where the scales were removed. He hit the place until it was a bloody mess. Qin Yu opened the enchantment, and the snake didn't fight with Ning Shu anymore. It dragged its injured body and ran away. How is it? Qin Yu asked Ning Shu. Ning Shu said, I think I need a weapon. Qin Yu asked, what kind of weapon do you want? You have a weapon? Ning Shu asked. I can forge it. Qin Yu said. You know how to forge weapons? Ning Shu was extremely surprised. As a kelp, you're already very lucky that you didn't become a cold kelp. You even know how to create artifacts, smiley face. Qin Yu nodded. I learned it from the human race. Although the human race isn't as strong as the demon race or the demon race, they use all kinds of methods to strengthen themselves, such as pills, arrays, and artifacts. Then you know everything the humans know? Ning Shu squinted and asked. Yes, I have endless time to learn these things, Qin Yu said. Damn, she was also a little expert who was proficient in everything. Children who love to learn are good children. Dear, teach me alchemy in array formation, Ning Shu said clearly. Qin Yu said with some surprise, you want to learn these things? Of course. There's no harm in having more skills. Ning Shu nodded. Qin Yu nodded. Okay. Qin Yu grabbed Ning Shu's collar and brought him back to the house. Ning Shu asked, what do you want to learn? Alchemy in array formation, Qin Yu said. You don't want to learn how to forge artifacts? Qin Yu asked. Ning Shu shook his head. I feel that these two are already very difficult. It was a bit difficult to learn these before the mission was completed. It was good to know some things. Just like what Qin Yu said, learning made one wise and powerful. Qin Yu took out the alchemy cauldron from his storage space. Then he took out a thick stack of pill recipes. These pill recipes were neat and tidy. Some of the papers were yellowed, but the corners weren't curled at all. It was obvious that Qin Yu had preserved them well. Then Qin Yu took out some herbs and treasures, as well as beast cores. Looking at Qin Yu's serious expression, Ning Shu could feel his respect for knowledge. You collected all these? Ning Shu looked at the pill recipes and asked Qin Yu. Qin Yu nodded. Yes, I collect every pill recipe that comes out. Some of the pill recipes outside have been lost, but I have them. He was really a living fossil. Why didn't he use a jade token to preserve them? How long could paper be preserved? Alchemy requires fire spirit roots. If you don't have fire spirit roots, you'll need heaven fire or earth fire, Qin Yu said. Ning Shu circulated the spirit energy in his body. A weak flame appeared on his finger. I have fire spirit roots. From now on, you'll memorize the pill recipes and identify treasures. Qin Yu and Ning Shu said. When you're done, we'll try alchemy. Okay, thank you. Ning Shu thanked Qin Yu. Ning Shu started memorizing. Ning Shu saw how much Qin Yu valued these pill recipes. He was especially careful when he looked at them. He was afraid that he would spoil them. Luckily, Ning Shu added a lot of attribute points to his wisdom. His memory improved. He could memorize things by rote. Then, it was the effects of the treasures and the steps of alchemy. Other than cultivating, Ning Shu would look at these things and ponder about them. When he was hungry, he would eat fasting pills. Qin Yu sometimes came over to take a look. Seeing Ning Shu like this, he let him be. Ning Shu didn't know how long he had been cooped up in his room until Qin Yu told him that he could start alchemy. Ning Shu's heart was jumping for joy. Go bathe and change your clothes. Ning Shu said. Although he could use the dust cleaning technique, Ning Shu still felt dirty after not bathing for so long. After washing up seriously and changing his clothes, Ning Shu entered the alchemy room. Ning Shu saw Qin Yu's serious look and couldn't help but become serious too. How big is the fire you released? Ning Shu asked. Ning Shu urged the spiritual energy in her body. Then, a flickering flame appeared on her finger. It was very small. With this flame, he wouldn't be able to make any pills in his lifetime. She didn't cultivate any fire-type techniques. Of course, she was very weak. Qin Yu glanced at Ning Shu and took out some red crystals. These crystals were piled together and released a heat like flames. Qin Yu put the crystals under the alchemy furnace. Ning Shu said, make the simplest fasting pill. Okay. Ning Shu swallowed nervously. He took the ingredients for the fasting pill and put them into the alchemy furnace according to the steps on the recipe. He released his mental power and paid attention to the situation in the furnace. He let the spirit energy merge into the pill liquid and let the pill take shape. Obviously, Ning Shu didn't have any talent in alchemy. He failed twice in a row and the furnace exploded. With such talent, the heavenly Tao couldn't cheat even if he wanted to. Qin Yu comforted Ning Shu. Take it slow. Alchemy isn't an easy thing to do. Ning Shu nodded and continued to fight with the fasting pill. He didn't expect the fasting pill that he usually exchanged with points to be so difficult to get. 20 points for one pill. Ning Shu exchanged 100 pills each time. But why was it so difficult for him to do it? Ning Shu touched his face and black dust covered it. Learn it. What if one day the system went crazy and stopped exchanging? Ning Shu didn't trust the system store at all. The things he exchanged would be taken back at will. There were all kinds of restrictions. Except for merit points and faith power, the things he exchanged would always belong to him. But the problem was that these two things weren't like points, which could be obtained in every world. It was only reliable in his own hands. Chapter 677. Ning Shu's alchemy career was very bumpy. Since opening the furnace for more than 10 days, Ning Shu had not refined a single pill. The biggest reason was that he couldn't let the pill take shape. It was always a lump of paste. Ning Shu's heart was so stifled that he didn't want to think about it. When he thought about other people refining pills, the pills would jump out of the pill furnace, shining with golden light. Qin Yu watched from the side and eventually shook his head. This cauldron is a divine artifact within cauldrons. It can help people refine pills, but it still can't save you. Ning Shu was displeased. He looked at Qin Yu from the corner of his eyes. Then how long did it take you to refine your first pill? Qin Yu's eyes moved, obviously trying to recall. About 1,000 years. Fuck, you still have the nerve to laugh at me after 1,000 years? At least I won't take 1,000 years to concoct a pill. Ning Shu curled his lips. Qin Yu said, the things of the human race are too complicated for me. Back then, I spent a lot of time to figure out what alchemy was all about. Ning Shu felt a little guilty. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have laughed at you for being retarded. Qin Yu. Ning Shu was really confused by alchemy. Just like what Qin Yu said, it was very complicated. The spirit grass and spirit medicine had to be sorted out in order, and there was a long interval between each batch. Instead of cooking a hodgepodge, he threw all the ingredients into the cauldron and dozed off at the side. Let's not worry about the medicinal pills for now. Let's learn how to set up formations, Ning Shu said. Qin Yu glanced at Ning Shu. The array is equally complicated. The Qimen Duanjia, 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 and the Qimen Duanjia. Like a retard. Ning Shu laughed dryly. Let's take it slow. Ning Shu started his life of reciting the heavenly stems and earthly branches again. Ning Shu smiled. Fuck, I might as well practice martial arts. Ning Shu felt like he could not take it anymore. However, no matter how difficult it was, he still had to learn it. Who knew, he might be able to use these things one day. She traveled through several worlds with her half-baked medical skills. If he learned these things, he might be able to set up a stall to divine things if the situation in the quest was too difficult. Everything was to make it easier to complete the mission. Ning Shu engraved these things in his mind while Qin Yu guided Ning Shu from the side. When he was tired, he would cultivate. When he had cultivated enough, he would start studying, refining pills, and setting up formations. Slowly simmering like this, Ning Shu felt that his spiritual force was stronger than before. While refining the pills, he could also feel the changes in the spirit grasses and spirit fruits. After refining pills for nearly 3 months, Ning Shu finally managed to refine a batch of fasting pills. However, these fasting pills were all different in shape. They weren't round at all. They were completely different from the fasting pills that Ning Shu had purchased from the system shop. It didn't look good at all. Ning Shu tried to eat one. Although it didn't look good, it was effective. Being able to condense the dan was a good start. If he chopped it up, the dan would become round. Dan cloud and dan pattern were like legends to Ning Shu. It wasn't easy to make the dan cloud round. Other than refining pills, he would also set up some simple formations in the yard. However, they were very simple. Qin Yu could tell at a glance. Ning Shu wanted to make them more complicated, but these things had to be stacked according to the rules. The success of a formation depended on the right time, the right place, the right people, the help of the gods, the layout, and many other factors. Every time he set up a formation, Ning Shu would use all the treasures in his pocket. Every formation needed something to hold down the eye of the formation. However, every time, Qin Yu would destroy it. The formations she set up were completely useless. Ning Shu wasn't discouraged. It might not work on Qin Yu, but it would work on ordinary people. Ning Shu was busy every day. Before he left this world, he had to seize the time to learn more from Kelp. Not every world had someone like her who was willing to teach him. However, Ning Shu's qi in his dantian changed again. It was originally silver, but now it had turned white. It was even becoming transparent. Ning Shu released his qi. As expected, it wasn't as dazzling as gold. It was very inconspicuous. Was it really like what Kelp said? The color was too bright and hard to hide. Ning Shu felt like he could flip the entire house. He hugged the big tree in the yard and easily lifted it up. Ning Shu didn't even know how strong he was. Qin Yu didn't like to fight with Ning Shu. In his words, every time I fight, my luck will be taken away. I can always find a beast. Ning Shu could only go to the Mystic Spirit Mountain to find a beast. The deeper he went, the stronger the beast was. The beast would also divide its territory. Ning Shu only needed to go to a beast's territory and fight arrogantly. Then, he would provoke the beast, and the beast would directly fight with Ning Shu. Ning Shu's strength was even greater than before. Every cell in his body was filled with power. When he met a beast that wasn't that strong, Ning Shu could actually turn it into a bloody mist with one punch. Qin Yu estimated that Ning Shu's strength should be about the same as a soul formation cultivator. This cultivation speed made Ning Shu feel shocked. She hadn't been in this world for long. Her speed was really like a rocket. Normal people would cultivate to the foundation establishment stage and then charge towards the golden core stage. Only those who could reach the golden core stage could be considered strong. Her rapid progress was truly terrifying. It gave Ning Shu a surreal and unrealistic feeling. She felt as if she was floating. Damn it, he was just a country bumpkin who had never seen the world. Qin Yu asked Ning Shu, "What weapon do you want?" Ning Shu thought about it. With his strength, a sword wasn't suitable for him. He needed a weapon that was powerful and domineering. He needed a weapon that could suppress people the moment he appeared. After listening to Ning Shu's request, Qin Yu looked at him silently. A giant axe. Ning Shu's eyes lit up. She remembered Pangu's appearance when he created the world. He nodded. An axe. Qin Yu, I've been in the cultivation world for so many years. I've never seen a woman use an axe. Even men rarely use one. Qin Yu said. Immortal cultivators naturally valued their manners. Not only women, men also had to be graceful and celestial. Qin Yu looked at Ning Shu. He could imagine her holding an axe in his mind. He felt that it was a little painful and stopped imagining. Thank you. Sorry to trouble you. I'll go and find the materials you need. Ning Shu said. Qin Yu shook his head. I have a lot of materials. Then I'll have to trouble you. Ning Shu patted Qin Yu encouragingly. I have faith in you. Qin Yu moved his body and avoided Ning Shu's hand. I'm going into seclusion to forge weapons. Don't run around. Ning Shu nodded. Be careful. He heard that forging weapons was much more dangerous than refining pills. Qin Yu, I don't want to talk to you. Since Qin Yu was in seclusion, Ning Shu would refine pills by himself and practice setting up arrays. Occasionally, he would go and harass the demon beasts in the mountains to test his battle skills. When he became stronger, he would definitely go back and report to Qin Huajun. Otherwise, he would really be letting down his painstaking effort to think for her. Chapter 678. Ning Shu caught a rabbit, skinned it and roasted it on the fire, sprinkled some seasonings, and the smell of the fat was very fragrant. Ning Shu twirled the rabbit stuck on the stick in his hand. Just now, he had a fight with the boss of this territory, a demon beast equivalent to the crossing tribulation stage. Ning Shu fought to a draw with her. Ning Shu suffered some injuries, and the demon beast was also beaten quite badly by Ning Shu. Suddenly, Ning Shu's ears moved, he felt someone approaching. Ning Shu saw that the rabbit was cooked, took the rabbit and gnawed on it, then looked over to see what was going on. Ning Shu squatted on a tree branch, and saw a group of people chasing a boy. The boy looked at most 15 years old. His body was stained with blood, obviously injured, but he still ran away regardless. Ning Shu saw that the boy's body had a little bit of spiritual qi fluctuation. He didn't even enter the threshold of cultivation. The people chasing him were some low-level cultivators, they probably didn't even reach the Foundation establishment stage. The boy in front was quickly caught up, and several cultivators surrounded him. Facing such a situation, the boy's face was gloomy, the hair on his forehead covered his eyes. "Evil demon, give up your life." A cultivator holding a compass-like magic tool shouted at the boy. Ning Shu, who was squatting on the tree and gnawing on the rabbit, was stunned for a moment, carefully sizing up the boy, demon. The boy tightly pursed his lips, fiercely looking at the people chasing him, his eyes were malicious, he looked like a Chinibu who wanted to destroy the whole world because the whole world had wronged him. A cultivator holding a sword formed an incantation, the sword danced in the air, stabbing at the boy. The boy wanted to dodge, but several other cultivators restrained him. The boy's face flashed a look of despair, his whole body was emitting demonic chi, he wanted to rely on it to attack these people. But compared to a real demon, the demonic chi on his body was like the difference between the bright moon and a firefly. Ning Shu threw out a bone that was gnawed clean, the bone directly hit the sword that was stabbing at the boy, and was directly sent flying, deeply embedded in the trunk. The sudden situation caused everyone to be shocked. The cultivator looked around and asked, "Who is it that's sneaking around?" The boy exhaled heavily and looked around as well. Ning Shu wiped her greasy hands on the tree trunk and jumped down from the tree. When the few cultivators saw that Ning Shu was a woman, they immediately sneered, "Mind your own business, otherwise we will kill you as well." When the boy saw Ning Shu, he was a little disappointed. He thought that it was some kind of expert, but he didn't expect it to be a girl who wasn't even as tall as him. "Why did you kill him?" Ning Shu asked. "Scram. This is not the time for you to interfere. If you don't leave, don't blame us for being rude to you. We'll make you our cultivation vessel." One of the cultivators cast a lustful glance at Ning Shu's body. Ning Shu's face was expressionless. She released her chi and slapped the cultivator in the face from a distance. The cultivator was slapped into a tree trunk and fell to the ground, spitting out his teeth. When the others saw how powerful Ning Shu was, they couldn't help but have a change in expression. "Senior, this person is an evil creature left behind by the devil race. Everyone in the devil race has the right to kill him. We have disturbed Senior, we hope Senior can forgive us." They saw how easily Ning Shu defeated the most powerful person among them. Knowing that they wouldn't be able to get anything out of Ning Shu, they softened their attitude. Ning Shu looked at the boy. The boy and Ning Shu's eyes met. The boy's lips were tightly pursed, and his expression was incomparably gloomy. It was obvious that he was a problematic youth. Seeing Ning Shu looking at the boy, a cultivator immediately said, "Senior, this person is a human devil bastard. His mother was raped by a low-level devil race. His mother actually secretly gave birth to him. This person doesn't shrink from any evil, causing a lot of trouble. The villagers asked us to get rid of this scourge." Ning Shu understood. One look and he could tell that this was a devilish child. It was completely understandable that they wanted to kill this devilish child. Hearing the cultivator's words, the boy's expression became even more gloomy. He seemed to hate the world and wished that he could turn into a furnace and merge with this world. Ning Shu grunted and lightly said, "Let me deal with this person." "This." The cultivators looked at each other. One of them said with some difficulty, "The villagers asked us to get rid of him. If we don't see his corpse, it's hard to say what will happen to the villagers." Ning Shu sneered in his heart. Would cultivators care about mortals? Ning Shu lightly said, "You want me to do it?" "Senior, this person is from the devil race. We must get rid of him," the cultivator said. Ning Shu was impatient. He slapped the cultivator and sent him away. "You, come here," Ning Shu said to the boy. The boy looked left and right. Ning Shu walked over. There was death on both sides. The boy chose to die in Ning Shu's hands. "I will get rid of this person." Ning Shu grabbed the boy by the collar and left. Who would have thought that grabbing someone by the collar would be so satisfying? No wonder Qingyue always liked to grab her collar. The boy struggled violently, wanting to escape from Ning Shu's control. Being grabbed by the collar by a girl who was not even as tall as him, it was simply, his face flushed red. Ning Shu loosened her grip on his collar and asked, "Are you a human demon?" The boy coldly said, "You can kill me or cut me up as you wish. I'm from the devil race. Why don't you think of yourself as a human?" Ning Shu was a bit surprised. The boy sneered, "Human? I've never thought of myself as a human. It's just a pity that I'm not from the devil race. Otherwise, I would suck all of the humans dry." Ning Shu, thought how much damage must he have suffered. But this was normal. Humans and demons were irreconcilable. People like them who had the blood of both the devil race and the human race were anomalies. In the human race, they were detestable demons. In the devil race, they were lowly bastards. Their lives were equally difficult. Xiao Susu's life in the devil race was like an abyss of suffering. Ning Shu said, "I'm also of mixed blood." The boy was stunned. "I don't believe you." Devil Qi slowly emerged from Ning Shu's body. The boy's eyes widened. "Then why are you so powerful?" "I cultivated myself," Ning Shu said. The boy's face darkened. "Impossible." Ning Shu's body slowly floated up. He looked down at him from above. "I'm stronger than you think." The boy raised his head, his eyes trembling. With a thud, Ning Shu knelt down. "Please take me as your disciple. I want to be strong." Ning Shu's face was indifferent. "When you're strong, you can go take revenge on society, right?" The boy didn't understand what "take revenge on society" meant, but he understood the word revenge. He said in a low voice, "They killed my mother." Ning Shu shook his head. "I'm not taking any disciples. Please, I'm willing to do anything." The boy kowtowed to the ground. "I want to be strong, incomparably strong. So strong that no one dares to kill me." Only by being strong could he control his own fate. Chapter 679. Ning Shu didn't take him in as a disciple. This guy looked like he wanted to destroy the world. If he was really powerful, he would probably cause a lot of trouble. He was very cynical and extreme. Ning Shu said, "I saved your life because we're the same kind. Stop being so despicable." The boy followed Ning Shu closely and begged, "Please, please." Ning Shu turned to look at him and asked, "Do you hate me now? Do you resent me for not teaching you?" The boy's eyes flickered, but he didn't say anything. Ning Shu said calmly, "You're so resentful over such a small matter. If you become powerful one day, the first person you'll kill will be me." The boy knelt on the ground. "I can swear that I won't do that." Ning Shu shook his head and went back to the small town. When he returned to Qin Yu's house, Ning Shu didn't let him in. He knelt at the door, his back straight. Ning Shu couldn't be bothered with him. Since he wanted to kneel, so be it. Ning Shu started to concoct pills and set up a formation. Suddenly, dark clouds gathered in the sky above the house and released a lightning strike on the house. The house was destroyed. Ning Shu's heart tightened. The kelp was still in the house. Ning Shu was about to rush in and pull the kelp out when he saw a giant axe rise into the sky, resisting the lightning strikes. This was a lightning tribulation. The axe was going through a lightning tribulation. Qin Yu came out of the house. He looked very tired. Ning Shu asked, "Are you okay?" Qin Yu shook his head and looked up at the axe. The lightning struck the axe. The axe made a buzzing sound, as if it was trying its best to resist the lightning tribulation. The axe started to shrink and its color became darker. The lightning tribulation started to weaken. When the last lightning struck the axe, the black clouds dissipated and the sky became clear again. Qin Yu reached out and the axe flew into his hand. He then passed it to Ning Shu. Ning Shu held the axe. The axe was very heavy, and Ning Shu felt very good holding it in his hands. Thank you. Ning Shu was very happy. Nurture it in your dantian. It's a divine artifact. Qin Yu looked a little tired. Divine weapon? Ning Shu said in shock, Kelp, you can actually refine divine artifacts. Those divine weapons of the cultivation sects are all made by people. Why can't I make divine weapons? Qin Yu said indifferently. What I mean is, your refining skills are so high that it's beyond my expectations. Ning Shu stroked the black axe. It was a very simple axe, but it was a divine weapon. True treasures would conceal their own brilliance, and treasures would conceal themselves. This is too expensive. I'm embarrassed to accept it, Ning Shu said. Then return it to me. Qin Yu stretched out his hand. Ning Shu immediately shook his head. You don't even use axes. This kind of weapon is really bad for your noble and elegant image. The boy kneeling at the gate looked at the sky with his mouth agape. So powerful. Qin Yu's expression changed. He asked, what's the situation at the gate? Oh, a mixed-blood human and demon like me. He wanted to be my disciple, but I didn't agree. Ning Shu said indifferently. He let his consciousness enter the axe and let the axe carve into his consciousness. When he completely grasped the axe, Ning Shu felt that the axe was like his own arm. He could use it as he wished, and it could be big or small. Ning Shu placed the axe in his dantian to nurture it. When the axe entered his dantian, the Qi dragon in his dantian seemed to have found a place to rest. Its body coiled around the handle of the axe. The axe resisted it, but the Qi dragon clung tightly to the handle of the axe. The axe couldn't do anything. What's the name of this axe? Ning Shu asked Qin Yu. Qin Yu said, it still doesn't have a name. You can give it one. Ning Shu thought for a bit and said, Pangu heaven opening axe, domineering isn't it? As soon as Ning Shu's voice fell, the axe in his dantian moved. Qin Yu nodded his head, as you wish. Having obtained a treasure, Ning Shu was very happy in his heart. Just a moment ago, I saw a divine weapon crossing the tribulation. Many cultivators rushed over. The divine weapon crossing the tribulation attracted many experts. This however was a divine weapon. A divine weapon could raise a sect. Every cultivation sect had their own divine weapon. It was a kind of confidence and deterrence. If they could obtain a divine weapon, their strength would advance by leaps and bounds. In Blue Wave's continent, it had been many years since someone refined a divine weapon. After a while, countless experts were floating around Qin Yu's house. Moreover, some people were rushing over. The movement of a divine weapon crossing the tribulation was too big. Everyone was looking at Ning Shu and Qin Yu with a scrutinizing gaze. Did you two see the divine weapon? A white-haired old man said, just a moment ago, I saw the axe flying over here. Ning Shu, speaking as if the axe was his. Oh, it flew over there. Ning Shu casually pointed. The old man's expression immediately became serious, hand over the divine axe. Ning Shu spat, why should I? Ning Shu looked at these people. He was eager to test his strength. Moreover, he had the heaven-opening axe. He wanted to test how strong this axe was. More and more cultivators rushed over. The house was packed. With so many people, even a mouthful of saliva from each of them could drown Ning Shu and Qin Yu. Qin Yu's expression was indifferent. Facing so many people, his heart was also unmoved. Call out the divine axe and I will spare your life. A man stood out. This man had a powerful aura, who refined the divine axe. Ning Shu patted his chest, me. The man ignored Ning Shu and locked his gaze on Qin Yu, you refined the divine axe? You can come to my God Wind sect to protect you. Qin Yu asked Ning Shu, should we leave or fight? Fight, let the heaven-opening axe shine. Ning Shu was eager to try. Hiding was not a problem. Cultivators followed their hearts and crawled on the path to the great Tao. There were too many setbacks and difficulties. Keep an eye on me. If I can't beat him later, come and help me, Ning Shu said to Qin Yu. Qin Yu silently looked at Ning Shu, you can't even deal with so few people. So many people and you still call it few? Ning Shu glanced at him. A long, long time ago, someone said that if he could obtain me, he would be able to step through the void. I can't even step through the void. I am restricted under the heavenly Tao. Qin Yu said indifferently. Ning Shu looked at Qin Yu with a pitiful and sympathetic expression, actually, this is all because of your hair. The green color is too eye-catching. Seeing Qin Yu's hair color, most people would think that he was a demonic beast. Demonic beasts had low intelligence, and very few of them could transform. Qin Yu was unique. If he didn't mess with him, who would he mess with? Maybe eating a piece of meat would be very nutritious. Ning Shu willed, and the heaven-opening axe appeared in Ning Shu's hand. Ning Shu held the axe, and the axe let out a clear sound. Ning Shu said loudly, the axe is in my hand. If you have the ability, come and take it. Chapter 680. The sky-splitting axe refined by Qin Yu attracted a lot of covetous eyes. One by one, they stared at the axe in Ning Shu's hand with red eyes, and their breathing became rapid. This was a divine tool. Ning Shu held the axe, his body floated up, and said, the axe in my hand will belong to whoever grabs it. The cultivators couldn't resist the temptation of the divine tool. One of the cultivators pounced on Ning Shu. When the others saw that one of them made the first move, they were afraid that they couldn't get the divine tool, so they also pounced on Ning Shu. However, some people didn't move, they were not anxious at all. Ning Shu circulated his qi, and the axe in Ning Shu's hand slightly trembled. Ning Shu raised the axe, and a huge axe shadow formed behind him, chopping towards the crowd. Under the attack of the huge axe shadow, many cultivators vomited blood on the spot and lost their fighting strength. Some cultivators even fainted due to the shock of their divine sense. It was unknown whether they were dead or alive. Ning Shu held the sky-splitting axe tightly. When the axe fell, Ning Shu felt that his body was hollowed out. The sky-splitting axe was too powerful, and she was too weak. The cultivators who didn't move before had burning eyes when they saw the sky-splitting axe was so powerful. Ning Shu said, there are so many people here, you can't escape. If you take the initiative to hand over the divine axe, we can spare your life. If you don't hand it over, we can only kill you, and the divine axe will be an ownerless object. Ning Shu said with a smile, there is only one axe, and there are so many people here, how are you going to divide it? Everyone looked at each other, and the cultivator who claimed to be Divine Wind sect said, let's deal with you first, then we'll talk about the ownership of the divine axe. Ning Shu sneered, and released his internal strength. The energy rushed out of Ning Shu's body, and roared towards the cultivators. Now the energy changed from gold to silver, and it was translucent. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't be able to see it clearly. Of course, the cultivators' eyesight was incomparably good. When they saw the coiling dragon, they frowned and defended. They didn't know what kind of technique this was. The chi force tangled with these people. The cultivators with slightly lower cultivation had their arms pinched by the coiling dragon, and their arms were instantly crushed. Everyone worked together to attack the coiling dragon, but their attacks were useless against it. It was as if only Qin Yu could scatter him with a casual flick of his finger. Ordinary cultivators couldn't. Ning Shu swung the heaven-splitting axe and fought with the cultivator from the Divine Wind sect. This fellow was very powerful. Even though Ning Shu had the heaven-splitting axe, he didn't cause any harm to him. He had been trying to cut off the connection between Ning Shu and the heaven-opening axe. Every time he saw Ning Shu release a powerful attack with the heaven-opening axe, his eyes became brighter and brighter. Ning Shu had a general understanding of his own strength. He said to Qin Yu, who was standing still with his sleeves fluttering in the wind, "Stop fighting, let's retreat." Qin Yu instantly appeared beside Ning Shu and grabbed Ning Shu's collar. With a thought, Ning Shu sent the coiling dragon energy back to his dantian. "Stop them, they are about to escape." The cultivator from the Divine Wind sect shouted. Ning Shu turned his head and saw the dumbfounded youth standing at the door. He said to Qin Yu, "Bring him along." Qin Yu directly turned his hand into a cold seaweed and wrapped it around the youth. Then, he disappeared in an instant. A group of people wanted to use all kinds of methods to stop them. But in the end, they disappeared in an instant. Even the god artifact was gone. Ning Shu and Qin Yu had already run far away. Qin Yu let go of Ning Shu's collar. Ning Shu supported himself against a tree and vomited. Every time he teleported, it was a torture. The other person directly fainted. Qin Yu frowned and said, "There are still things in that house. I want to go back." Ning Shu thought of the pill formulas and various arrays. There was also the god artifact pill furnace in the house. "You can go," Ning Shu said. Qin Yu disappeared in a flash. Ning Shu saw that there was no one around. There was a fainted person beside him. Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the ground and cultivated. When his body felt better, he stopped cultivating. When he opened his eyes, he saw a pair of burning eyes. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. "What are you looking at me for? I beg you to take me as your disciple." The youth knelt in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu stood up. He was wondering why Hai Dai was not back yet. Could it be that something happened? The youth saw that Ning Shu was ignoring him. "Master, I beg you to take me as your disciple. I will definitely be filial to Master." Ning Shu frowned. With Hai Dai's teleportation ability, it should be very fast. "Master!" The youth Ning Shu shouted. "Damn, be quiet!" Ning Shu said in annoyance. Qin Yu was not back. Ning Shu was really worried that something would happen to him. With his silly look, he might be fooled. Ning Shu was thinking when Qin Yu came back. Ning Shu asked, "Why were you gone for so long? I thought you had been caught." Qin Yu said, "Something went wrong. Someone took it away. I had to go and get it back. It took me some time. It's good that you got it back. Where are we going now?" Ning Shu did not know where to go. "Master, let's go to my house," the youth hurriedly said. This time, he did not have a gloomy expression on his face. "You have a disciple?" Qin Yu raised his eyebrows. "No, he just called me that." Ning Shu shook his head. "He looks like a brat." "Master, I beg you." The youth knelt in front of Ning Shu and kowtowed. "I am willing to serve Master and treat Master as my father, no, as my mother." This brat was really flexible. "All right, let's go to your house." Ning Shu nodded. A thought rose in his mind. "What is your name?" Ning Shu asked. "My name is Jiang Lu." Jiang Lu said. Jiang Li's house was in a village some distance away from the Mystic Spirit Mountain range. There were some people who could cultivate. There were 1 or 2 people who were at the first level of qi refinement. They made a living by hunting in the periphery of the Mystic Spirit Mountain range. Jiang Lu brought Ning Shu and Qin Yu into the village. The villagers were stunned when they saw Jiang Lu. "Why aren't you dead?" Seeing these people, Jiang Li's face darkened. The villagers looked at Jiang Lu with vigilance and wariness. Most of them looked at him with disgust. Especially when they saw that he had brought back 2 people. One of them was actually green-haired. Ning Shu and the group arrived at Jiang Li's house under such gazes. Jiang Li's house was rather shabby. When Jiang Lu opened the door creaked and dust fell. The yard was filled with weeds. "Master, I will go tidy up your room," Jiang Lu said to Ning Shu. He took the lead to tidy up the house. Qin Yu looked left and right. Ning Shu asked, "What is your motive?" "No motive. I just want to build a sect that can accommodate people like me and Jiang Lu," Ning Shu said. "Oh, you want to open a sect and take in disciples?" Qin Yu raised his eyebrows. "Are you strong enough to teach disciples?" Ning Shu, "Damn, even kelp knows how to complain." Ning Shu grinned, "Didn't you say that the master can show you the way, but the cultivation depends on the person?" Chapter 681. Jiang Lu tidied up the house and said to Ning Shu, "Master, the house is tidied up." Ning Shu glanced at Jiang Lu and nodded, "Thank you for your hard work." Qin Yu took the lead and walked in. Ning Shu followed him in and looked around the room. It was very simple but still clean. "I'll go cook," Jiang Lu said. Ning Shu waved his hand and said, "No need, I have a lot of fasting pills." Ning Shu took a bottle and threw it to Jiang Lu. Jiang Lu quickly caught it and poured out a few fasting pills. He looked at the fasting pills in his hand. Jiang Lu was speechless. These were pills. Every one of them had a different shape. Shouldn't pills be round and full of spirit energy? Ning Shu naturally saw Jiang Li's expression and felt unhappy. He coughed and said, "Although they don't look good, the effect is the same. It's the same when you eat it." "Thank you, Master." Jiang Lu took the pills and knelt in front of Ning Shu. "Master, please accept me as your disciple." Ning Shu's face was indifferent. He stuffed a fasting pill into his mouth and did not say anything. Jiang Lu kowtowed again, "Master, please accept me." Ning Shu pointed at Qin Yu, "Why do you want to be my disciple? He's stronger than me." Jiang Lu glanced at Qin Yu and immediately lowered his eyes. "I don't think his cultivation method is suitable for me. This kid was quite smart." Ning Shu curled her lips, "He has a lot of treasures on him. Who knows, he might have a suitable cultivation method for you. I just feel that Master's cultivation method is suitable for me." Jiang Lu said, "The demonic energy and spirit energy in my body are conflicting. I can't cultivate at all." Ning Shu, this kid came for her peerless martial arts. Since she was going to start a sect, Ning Shu wanted to pass down her peerless martial arts. However, Ning Shu was not sure about Jiang Li's character. This was her eldest disciple. Perhaps this fellow would kill his master in the future. At first glance, this guy looked like someone who wanted to destroy the world and take revenge on society. Because of all kinds of evil intentions, he was filled with resentment. Having martial strength was simply a disaster. Ning Shu said, "I'm going to save the world. Come with me." Jiang Lu was stunned. His face was full of, "What the hell?" Jiang Lu then said, "Disciple will follow in Master's footsteps." Ning Shu pursed his lips. Jiang Lu was speaking from the bottom of his heart. Ning Shu poked himself in the eyes. However, Ning Shu intended to accept Jiang Lu. Ning Shu straightened his clothes, coughed and said, "I can accept you as my disciple, but you have to abide by the rules of my sect. There is only one rule, you cannot kill the innocent." Jiang Lu immediately said, "I will definitely remember the sect rules." Originally, he wanted to offer Ning Shu a cup of tea, but he didn't boil the water. Instead, he offered the fasting pill that Ning Shu had given him to Ning Shu. Ning Shu was speechless. "Master, what's the name of the sect?" Jiang Lu asked. Ning Shu said, "Let's call it the Sun Moon Cult." Qin Yu shook his head. "It doesn't sound good. Since you want to establish a sect so that you can live a peaceful life, then you have to work on the name. Pure is pure, yang is strong, heaven is vigorous, yin and yang follow the Tao and last forever. Therefore, there is the saying of longevity sect. Ning Shu smiled. You're so cultured. Jiang Lu said, I think the sun-moon cult is very good. Ning Shu glanced at Jiang Lu. This guy is rebellious and reactionary. Qin Yu and Jiang Lu glanced at Ning Shu. Ning Shu's face trembled. In the end, he said, how about we call it the sun-moon cult, longevity sect? Qin Yu was speechless. Jiang Lu was speechless. Let's call it the longevity sect, Ning Shu said. Jiang Lu was a little disappointed. The sun-moon cult sounds impressive. Ning Shu, in any case, Jiang Lu was accepted as a disciple. Ning Shu taught him the cultivation method of the peerless martial art and sent a strand of energy into his body. Jiang Lu was holding back his anger. After receiving the secret manual, he began to cultivate non-stop. He wanted to hold his head up high. Qin Yu and Ning Shu asked, what do you plan to do now? I'll teach my disciple first. As for other things, we'll talk about them after the war between the humans and demons begins, Ning Shu said. The demon race and the human race would go to war every once in a while to compete for territory. For the demon race, there were only benefits and no disadvantages. They could obtain the corpses of cultivators and land. Even if the demon race on their side died, they could still absorb the corpses. However, the human strength couldn't be underestimated. They wouldn't let the demons step into their territory. Not long after, there would be another battle. Ning Shu had to make use of this period of time to cultivate his strength. Moreover, he had to rely on this battle to spread the name of the Changsun sect. Qin Yu nodded. As you wish. Did you encounter a bottleneck? Ning Shu asked Qin Yu. How come I've never seen you cultivate? I did. I wanted to break through the void and enter another world. However, I couldn't break through the laws of heaven and earth. Until now, I still haven't found the reason, Qin Yu said. Ning Shu didn't know what to say. He thought for a while and said, is there something you haven't cultivated? Is there something you're lacking? Just like her points, she couldn't level up without a certain amount of points. Qin Yu couldn't break through the void. It wasn't necessarily because he wasn't strong enough. There was a flaw that prevented him from ascending. Qin Yu squinted his eyes and shook his head. I don't know. Ning Shu didn't know what Qin Yu's problem was. He said, actually, there's no difference between entering another world and staying in this world. The place we are in is a plane. Do you understand? Ning Shu took 2 rocks and pointed at one of them. If you're on this rock and you break through it, you'll enter another rock. Moreover, the laws of heaven and earth in this rock are of a higher level than the one you're on now. No matter how we break through the void and enter the so-called immortal world, we can't leave the plane to survive. Ning Shu said. Qin Yu looked at Ning Shu. His eyes flashed and asked, you know about the world outside the stone? I know a little. I don't know how to break through this stone. Ning Shu said. She relied on the system to travel to different worlds. She didn't know how to break through planes. Maybe when she was strong enough, she would be able to travel through planes. Qin Yu stared at the 2 stones in a daze. No one knew what he was thinking. Ning Shu didn't care about him. He started cultivating. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth rushed towards Ning Shu's body. Jiang Lu saw this scene from next door and shamelessly stayed at the foot of Ning Shu's bed to cultivate. The spiritual energy in this room was very dense. It formed a misty spiritual energy fog. Ning Shu's ears twitched. He felt someone flying over the house. Qin Yu walked in. Ning Shu said, they're here. These people really didn't give up. For the sky-splitting axe, they were going to chase the entire cultivation world. Chapter 682. The temptation of a divine tool was too great, it could make people go crazy, especially when the owner of the divine tool was not very strong. Many people wanted to try, maybe they would be able to obtain the divine tool. "Wake up, we are being chased," Ning Shu said to Jianglu, who was immersed in cultivation. Jianglu opened his eyes. He felt that his body was full of energy, but following that, he was very hungry. "Master, disciple is very hungry," Jianglu said. He was not this hungry even when he was hungry for 2 days. Ning Shu saw that this state was the after-effect of cultivating a peerless martial art. His body lacked energy and could only rely on food to replenish it. Ning Shu took out a few bottles of fasting pills from his storage space and gave it to him. Jianglu ate a bottle in one go, only then did he alleviate his hunger. When Ning Shu went out, he saw that the room was surrounded by cultivators. The red-faced cultivator from the Divine Wind sect actually chased after him. It seemed like the Divine Wind sect was very obsessed with the heaven-splitting axe. With a thought, the heaven-splitting axe appeared in Ning Shu's hand. When the heaven-splitting axe appeared, the cultivators began to become restless. Their eyes burned as they looked at the heaven-splitting axe in Ning Shu's hand. The red-faced cultivator from the Divine Wind sect said, "Give me the divine axe and I can spare your life, otherwise, my Divine Wind sect can only inform all the sects and let the entire human race kill you. This person is from the devil race, everyone from the devil race has the right to kill. Hand over the divine axe, hand over this devil race, and I will let you go." The red-faced cultivator said righteously. Obviously, he had understood from the villagers that Jiang Lu was a human devil. Jiang Li's face was gloomy. He tightly pursed his lips and looked at the red-faced cultivator with eyes full of killing intent. Ning Shu sneered, holding the heaven-splitting axe. He slowly rose into the sky and said loudly, "Today is the battle of longevity sect's prestige. Jiang Lu is my longevity sect's disciple. It is not your turn to shout and kill." Ning Shu raised the heaven-splitting axe. A huge axe shadow formed behind him. This shadow carried a strong pressure, as if it could cut the entire heaven and earth apart. In order to show off, Ning Shu sucked out all the qi in his body. The coiling dragon qi fused into the giant axe, causing it to grow bigger and bigger until it covered the sky. The red-faced cultivator of Divine Wind sect raised his head and looked at the huge axe shadow. He was so excited that his body started to tremble. If he could obtain the godly axe, then Divine Wind sect would become a top sect. If he could obtain the godly axe, then he could even betray Divine Wind sect. The pressure exerted by the great axe grew increasingly heavy, seemingly carrying with it the power of heaven and earth as it hacked down on the cultivators. Seeing that, many of the cultivators did not try to resist. Instead, they quickly dodged. Besides, the attack of a divine artifact wasn't something they could resist just because they wanted to. The huge axe shadow chopped down on the ground, causing the ground to tremble. Some of the people who were unable to escape in time were directly swept away by the huge axe. Ning Shu raised the heaven-splitting axe and chopped down at the red-faced cultivator from the Divine Wind sect. He was most annoyed by this kind of people who used the banner of righteousness to achieve their goals. Didn't they just want the axe in her hand? Acting like a whore but still wanting to establish a monument to her chastity, this shameless thing. Ning Shu wanted to teach this person a lesson today. This person had the demeanor of an immortal, and really thought that he was some kind of thing. The red-faced cultivator saw Ning Shu rushing towards him. The red-faced cultivator also took out his own artifact and started to fight with Ning Shu. Ning Shu did not have any scruples. He took the heaven-splitting axe and directly chopped down at the opposite party's artifact. Every time he chopped down, his artifact would shake. The red-faced cultivator was very angry in his heart. This artifact was his life source artifact. Although it was the artifact that was injured, but the damage to his strength was even greater. Ning Shu raised the axe high. The heaven-splitting axe slightly shook and issued a clear cry. The axe shadow was mixed with the power of the coiling dragon, and chopped down at the red-faced cultivator. The red-faced cultivator's pupils constricted. He was so frightened by this power that his face turned pale. He could only use his artifact to resist. The axe shadow heavily chopped down on the artifact, issuing a loud sound. The red-faced cultivator's face turned even redder. With a "pu" sound, he spat out a mouthful of blood. His artifact was directly broken into many pieces. He could not repair it even if he wanted to. The red-faced cultivator directly took out a talisman and fled in an instant. After the red-faced cultivator left, the cultivators who were still watching began to retreat. Ning Shu held the axe. The axe trembled slightly and issued a buzzing sound. This made many cultivators speechless. Ning Shu's body was only 16 or 17 years old. His face still had a childish look. When he chopped down with the axe, he was very fierce. Ning Shu carried the axe on his shoulder and glanced at these people. Those who made eye contact with Ning Shu avoided his gaze. Some of the weaker cultivators decided to observe first. Of course, they could not give up on the artifact. This was an opportunity that could only come by after many years. If they missed this opportunity, they would regret it for life. After a while, the people around the house retreated. However, Ning Shu could still feel people spying on him. It was obvious that some people did not appear and were hiding in the dark. Ning Shu kept the heaven-opening axe in his dantian. He gave Qin Yu a thumbs up, "You are still the best." The heaven-opening axe was so strong that everyone coveted it. Don't make too many things in the future. Once you do, it will definitely cause a bloodbath. Ning Shu said. Qin Yu looked at Ning Shu silently, "You are too weak. You can't even use the heaven-opening axe's power. I will work hard and not let the heaven-opening axe go to waste." Ning Shu smiled and said, "In the future, the heaven-opening axe will be the sect-protecting artifact of the longevity sect." Jiang Lu said, "Master, you are so strong. You can do it too. This technique is very strong, but you can't pass it on to others. Otherwise, what will the longevity sect use to establish itself?" Ning Shu said. The reason why she built the longevity sect was to let people with the same fate as Xiao Susu to change their fate. There were many people like Xiao Susu who could survive in the cracks between the humans and demons. Since the world was open to her, why not make use of it? Jiang Lu knelt down and swore, "I swear to the heavens that I will not reveal this technique to humans and demons." Ning Shu nodded, "Get up. Can I pass it to the demons?" Jiang Lu said. Ning Shu said, "If the demons can cultivate, that is good. In the future, you will be the senior brother of the longevity sect." Qin Yu and Ning Shu asked, "What do we do next?" "Recruit disciples. The longevity sect needs to expand." Ning Shu thought about it and said, "Go to the border between humans and demons." Qin Yu still said, "As you wish." Ning Shu looked at Qin Yu and said, "Do you have your own things to do? You don't have to follow me." Qin Yu said, "I have nothing to do. I want to know more about this, plain." Ning Shu nodded, "Okay, I was afraid that I would delay you." The three of them left Jiang Li's house. Jiang Lu turned around to look at the dilapidated house before turning to follow behind Ning Shu. Chapter 683. Outside of Jiang Li's house, there were many villagers looking at Ning Shu and the other two. Jiang Lu clenched his fists tightly when he saw these people, and his face was filled with killing intent. Finally, Jiang Lu couldn't take it anymore. He felt that his body was filled with power. He could kill these people who bullied him. Ning Shu grabbed Jiang Lu and asked, "What are you doing? Those cultivators must be the ones who told on us. I want to kill them." Jiang Lu said gloomily. Ning Shu rolled his eyes, "Don't do anything. Only cultivators are a threat to us. Now that you've stepped into the door of cultivation, you can't do anything to these mortals. But they bullied me before and killed my mother. Master told me to bear with it. I don't know what's the use of cultivation. Jiang Li's body trembled, and his eyes were red. Demonic qi was coming out of his body. Ning Shu said, "Kill whoever killed your mother. An eye for an eye. But these people bullied you before and didn't harm your life. You can teach them a lesson. They are mortals, and if you kill them, you'll only be burdened with karmic fire. Cultivation is against the heavens. You can kill those who deserve to be killed, but killing those who can't resist is no different from them bullying you." Jiang Lu pursed his lips and said, "I'll remember." Ning Shu nodded, "Go, we'll wait for you at the entrance of the village." Ning Shu and Qin Yu walked towards the entrance of the village. Qin Yu looked at Ning Shu and said, "Other cultivators don't care about mortals, but you're different." "There's nothing different. Every time I kill someone, there'll be evil in my body. The resentment will wrap around my body. If I don't have to kill them, I won't kill them. It's hard to kill those who aren't related to me." Ning Shu said, "But if they want to kill me, I can't let them kill me." Qin Yu nodded, "There's a cause and effect." Ning Shu and Qin Yu stood at the entrance of the village and waited for Jiang Lu. Jiang Lu came out after a long time. When he came out, his face was injured and his clothes were dirty, but his steps were light. Seeing Ning Shu and Qin Yu, Jiang Lu quickened his steps. Ning Shu asked, "Done?" Jiang Lu nodded. Ning Shu nodded. "That's one thing I've settled." Ning Shu asked curiously, "How did you deal with the person who killed your mother?" Jiang Lu calmly said, "I dug out his eyes, cut off his ears, and chopped off his limbs. I made him into a human swine and threw him into a big wine jar. This is called drunken bone. I placed him in front of my mother's grave and let him atone for her sins. Master, I didn't kill him." Jiang Lu revealed his white teeth. Ning Shu smiled. Ning Shu was speechless. Such a terrifying torture, the pain level of this torture was definitely 5 stars. He might as well die. Seeing that Ning Shu did not speak, Jiang Lu said, "I don't hate them for humiliating me, but my mother is a human, she doesn't have any strength, she couldn't resist being raped by the devil clan, but why did they kill her?" Ning Shu was silent for a moment, then said, "Fear and anger. Jiang Li's mother was the real victim. These people didn't look for the devil race but judged the victim instead. How despicable. Especially the people who killed Jiang Li's mother. It was because the devil race was strong and made people afraid. Jiang Li's mother was weak and was a woman, she was thought to be unchaste and lascivious. She even gave birth to Jiang Lu. Since it's over, let's go." Ning Shu said. The group of 3 walked further and further away. Many people secretly followed them. Ning Shu naturally knew that there were people following. If these people wanted to jump out and ruin the reputation of the longevity sect, Ning Shu was still very willing. If they wanted the heaven-splitting axe in her hands, they had to prepare for the worst. "Master, since the longevity sect is a sect, there should be a sect, right?" Jiang Lu asked. "We haven't chosen a mountain yet. When we see an immortal mountain, we will occupy it and make it our sect." Along the way, Jiang Lu did all the dirty work while Ning Shu picked up treasures at the back. Seeing all kinds of treasures again, Ning Shu was not as scared as before. He directly kept them in his pocket. If he wanted to build a sect, he definitely needed resources. He had to start accumulating resources now. When they met beasts that weren't that strong, Ning Shu let Jiang Lu fight. Jiang Li's body often had new injuries before his old ones healed. When they met strong beasts, Ning Shu would do it himself. When he did, he didn't forget to bring Jiang Lu along. Jiang Lu felt really bitter. Every time he was in danger, he was only willing to help. Jiang Lu felt like he had walked through the gates of hell many times. He was angry, but in the end, he was filled with helplessness. A brat younger than him grabbed his collar. Jiang Lu hugged his head. Probably because Jianglu was Ning Shu's disciple, Qin Yu gave Jianglu a better artifact. People who cultivated top-tier martial arts were all strong men. Qin Yu gave him a long mace which greatly increased Jiang Li's battle prowess. Ning Shu suddenly realized that he would have more and more disciples in the future. He definitely had to give them weapons. Ning Shu looked at Qin Yu. Qin Yu turned around and looked at Ning Shu. "What's the matter? We can be considered good friends," Ning Shu said to Qin Yu. Qin Yu didn't know whether to shake his head or nod. I guess so. Then help me refine a few artifacts and let me give them to the juniors. If you have any problems, I will solve them for you immediately." Ning Shu patted his chest and said. She was considered a grandmaster. If a grandmaster didn't have 2 artifacts to show off, he wouldn't have any authority in front of the juniors. Qin Yu looked at Ning Shu silently. "Is there anything I can't solve here?" "Ning Shu, don't say that. Life is full of surprises. Who knows what will happen in the next second?" Ning Shu grabbed a ginseng baby and said to Qin Yu. This ginseng baby had grown 4 limbs and was still in the shape of a ginseng. It still needed time and opportunity to turn into a chubby baby. Qin Yu watched as this ginseng baby pounced on Ning Shu and got caught. He was speechless. "When I have nothing to do, I will refine some," Qin Yu said. Ning Shu instantly smiled and said, "Thank you. This demonic beast bag is for you. It isn't easy for a ginseng baby to form. Keep it." Qin Yu gave Ning Shu a bag. Ning Shu took the bag and stuffed the ginseng baby into it. When he had a mountain in the future, he would keep this little thing in the sect. It looked very impressive. Jianglu watched as his master casually picked up a treasure and was speechless. Why didn't he find any treasures? These demonic beast cores were obtained by him by killing demonic beasts. Seeing that his master could pick up treasures by bending down, Jianglu felt jealous. He also bent down to see if he could pick one up. But he didn't see anything. At night, they set up camp to rest and cultivate. Ning Shu would even ask Enlu to get some wild rabbits and pheasants to roast. Jianglu was helpless. Chapter 684. Jianglu had never seen a cultivator who was as greedy for food as his master. Every night, she would ask him to find food. "Damn, didn't they have the fasting pill?" "Master, don't we have the fasting pill?" Jianglu asked. Ning Shu glanced at Jianglu. "The fasting pill is the fasting pill, and food is food. Cultivating our sect's cultivation method is to constantly replenish the body's energy." Jianglu was speechless. So what if she was greedy? She was tormenting him. "Master, if you have something to do, I will do my best." "You said that you would treat me like a mother," Ning Shu said. Jianglu said, "Wait for me, master. I will be back soon." Jianglu ran off. Not long after, Jianglu returned with some meat. After cooking it, he gave it to Ning Shu and ate it himself. Ning Shu smiled. He had to take in more disciples to serve him in the future. Qin Yu was drinking seawater beside him. Ning Shu asked, "How do you go from one realm to another?" This question was too profound. Ning Shu didn't know how to answer. Ning Shu asked 2333 in his mind, "Do you know how cultivators go from one realm to another?" 2333 said, "After experiencing the lightning tribulation, the laws of heaven and earth will expel people from this realm to another realm." Ning Shu understood. He asked Qin Yu, "Have you experienced the lightning tribulation before?" "The laws of heaven and earth will expel you from this realm after experiencing the lightning tribulation." Qin Yu frowned. Ning Shu was surprised. "Don't tell me you haven't experienced the lightning tribulation before. Didn't you experience the lightning tribulation when you transformed?" Qin Yu's frown deepened. Ning Shu glanced at him. "Really? Qin Yu looked at Ning Shu dispiritedly. I saw a cloud following me. I used my true form to disperse it. I only found out later that it was the lightning tribulation. After that, there was no lightning tribulation. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu opened his mouth and patted Qin Yu's shoulder. 2333, you heard him. That's kelp situation. Is there any other way to break through? I think he's tired of staying in this world and wants to go out and explore, Ning Shu asked. 2333. 2333 said, there is a space node. Every time I teleport, I locate the space node. That way, I can break through the realm and reach other realms. Spatial node? Ning Shu asked again. In the interstellar plane, it's called a wormhole, from one point to another, 2333 explained. This kind of stuff is really brainwashing. Ning Shu said in a clear voice, can't you teleport every time? What is the basis of your teleportation? From the starting point to the destination, isn't that the law of space? Don't you know? Qin Yu asked. Fuck, if I knew, would I still need you to drag me by the collar and run? Ning Shu said, it's the same for breaking through the plane. You set a point, and the other point is outside the plane. Therefore, the mission now is to find this end point. With your strength, you will definitely break through. Qin Yu was silent, clearly thinking about something. Jiang Lu. Like an idiot. What are these two talking about? So high and mighty. After getting the new hint, Qin Yu fell into his own world. Along the way, Ning Shu and Jiang Lu fought and killed. They were getting closer and closer to their destination, the border between the human and demon races. There were more and more people following behind them, but seeing Ning Shu and Jiang Li's sparks, very few people came out to provoke them. They just silently watched the three of them. Wait for the powerful people of the sect to come first. The border was very chaotic. Humans and demons mixed together. There were also many people with human and demon bloodlines. Ning Shu planned to take in a few disciples that were pleasing to the eye first. At the border, there was a city called Black City. There were many shops here, trading the treasures of the human and demon races. This was a gray area recognized by both the human race and the demon race, and there were many powerful demon race and human race cultivators. Ning Shu's group headed towards Black City. Before they reached Black City, when they passed by the river, they saw a woman holding a wooden basin. There seemed to be a swaddling cloth in the wooden basin. The woman hurriedly put the wooden basin in the river, lifted her skirt and ran. This woman brushed past Ning Shu. Ning Shu saw that her face was very pale, and there were bloodstains on her skirt. It seemed like she had just given birth. She took out her flying sword and ran away in a panic. Not long later, a group of people on flying swords chased after the woman. Ning Shu looked at the wooden basin in the middle of the river and said to Jiang Lu, go and pull that wooden basin back. Master. Jiang Lu was unwilling. Hurry up, it's going to float away. Ning Shu kicked Jiang Lu into the river. Jiang Li's strength was not enough to fly in the air. He could only swim towards the wooden basin. He grabbed it and swam back. Jiang Lu brought the wooden basin in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu looked at the baby in the swaddling cloth, touched his face and said, it's a human demon. It's a child of humans and demons. Jiang Lu was surprised. Ning Shu untied the swaddling cloth and looked at the baby's lower body to see if it was a boy or a girl. Yes, it was a boy. Ning Shu waved his hand and said, second disciple found it. Qin Yu glanced at Ning Shu. Jiang Li's face twitched. He had a bad premonition and asked, Master, he's a baby. Who will take care of him? Ning Shu looked at Jiang Lu and smiled, you're the eldest senior brother. Of course, you'll take care of him. Don't tell me you still want me, the master, to take care of him. Jiang Li's face was ashen. He wanted to put the wooden basin back into the river. No, he wanted to throw it into the river and drown it. Being tortured by his master, Ning Shu, was already very painful. Now there was a little one. Jianglu wanted to die. Master, I'm a man. How can I take care of a child? Let's find someone to foster him. Jianglu said. Ning Shu looked at him from the corner of his eyes. This child is a demon. Who will take him in? Even if they can't find out now, they will definitely find out when he grows up. At that time, this child will definitely experience what you've experienced. In any case, your mother is your biological mother. Your adoptive parents will definitely be ruthless enough to kill him. Jianglu held the wooden basin and remained silent. Ning Shu took off the baby's swaddling cloth and said to Jianglu, "Throw this basin and the swaddling cloth into the river. I think those people will come back to find them." There were still bloodstains on the baby's body. The umbilical cord was just cut. Ning Shu took some clothes from the storage space and wrapped him up before heading towards Black City. Taking in this child was already the limit. Ning Shu found that the woman just now was not weak. The people chasing her were not weak either. Ning Shu did not intend to get involved in this mess. Black City was very big. The overall architectural style was like that of demons. Ning Shu and the other two paid some spirit stones and entered the city. They found an inn and prepared to stay for the night. Ning Shu stuffed the baby into Jiang Li's hands and said, "Take good care of your junior brother." Jiang Lu felt that the baby was hot and wanted to throw it away. "Damn it, this is your disciple. You're the master." Chapter 685. Jiang Lu insisted on staying in the same room as Ning Shu. He would go crazy if he had to face the child alone. Ning Shu listened to him. He asked the waiter for some cooked demon beast milk and fed him. He then took out some cloth from his storage space and cut it into diapers. "Learn from me. Just follow what I do," Ning Shu said to Jiang Lu. Jiang Lu watched as Ning Shu changed the child's diapers. His heart felt stifled. "Shizuan, since you know how to take care of children, junior brother will take care of them for you." Ning Shu laughed coldly and said, "Why? Can't you take care of your junior brother? This is also a form of cultivation." "Jiang Lu, you have a gloomy heart. It's good for you to interact with children more." Jiang Lu smiled. "Shizuan, I think I will become even gloomier. Go and find out the identity of that woman today," Ning Shu said. Jiang Lu immediately stood up. Compared to taking care of children, he was more willing to do this kind of thing. Ning Shu transferred a strand of hair-sized energy from his dantian into the child's body. The child drank the demon beast milk and fell asleep. Qin Yu walked in and looked at the child on the bed. "It's not convenient to take care of a child. Since you saw it, it means that it's fate," Ning Shu said. "Anyway, let Jiang Lu take care of him." Qin Yu pursed his lips. "This child is lucky to have met you. I was going to take him in as a disciple." Not long after, Jiang Lu returned. Ning Shu said, "That woman is a disciple of a sect in Black City. She fell in love with a demon and secretly gave birth to a child. She was going to be killed by the sect." Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. A human and a demon fell in love? That woman was a cultivator. Did she not know how scary the demon race was? Demons had a very good appearance. Especially the men of the demon race, they had a bit of evil aura. It was said that women loved bad men. Humans were all visual and could easily fall for them. But Ning Shu still could not accept that a human and a demon fell in love. Maybe they really fell in love. But they were not of the same race. The result of falling in love was always more tragic. Especially the 7 emotions and 6 desires of the demon race. In any case, it was unimaginable that a demon man would fall in love with a human woman. In the eyes of the demons, humans were food. After settling down in Black City, Jiang Lu bitterly became the child's nanny. Every day, he fed the child demonic beast milk, changed the child's diapers, and could only cultivate when the child fell asleep. Not a single moment was wasted. Jiang Lu had never expected such a life. He had thought that he would become extremely powerful, but in the end, he had to take care of a child every day. Jiang Lu still couldn't go against Ning Shu. Before he became truly strong, he still needed his master's protection. Jiang Lu really looked forward to what the Long Life sect would look like after it was established. Just like what his master said, people like them would have a place to stand. After she familiarized herself with the business, she felt that the child was not that difficult to take care of. Seeing that Jiang Lu was willing to take good care of the child, Ning Shu left the child to him. Ning Shu had been a babysitter for several worlds and didn't want to take care of the child at all. Now, using his identity as the master, he forced Jiang Lu to take care of the child. It felt so good. Ning Shu would transfer some energy to the child every few days to make his body stronger. In the future, his cultivation would be twice the result with half the effort. This child's mother was dead. She was killed by the sect and couldn't even enter the ancestral hall. Ning Shu didn't feel that the woman was pitiful. She was blinded by a little bit. Since she did something, she had to pay the price. Was it because of the demon race's beauty? What kind of fate would this child have after giving birth to a child that couldn't be born in this world? Ning Shu was more concerned about Jiang Li's cultivation progress. In any case, he was his eldest disciple. How big is your energy now? Jiang Lu looked at his dantian and said, "It's getting thicker. The shape feels a little weird." "Not bad, you can even transform." Ning Shu said, "When this cultivation technique is cultivated to a certain level, you will be able to transform. Moreover, the color will also change. You don't need to care about other things. Just absorb more spiritual energy. Your energy will gradually take shape." Ning Shu asked, "What shape is it?" "I can't see it clearly. It has 4 legs and looks a little like a tiger." Jiang Lu said. "Tiger?" Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. Could it be that everyone's energy transformation was different? She was a dragon. Ning Shu thought that everyone's cultivation was a dragon. He could slowly verify it in the future. Ning Shu said with a smile, "Cultivate well and take good care of junior brother." Jiang Lu nodded. "This disciple understands. Good child." Ning Shu said with gratification. Jiang Lu was a little speechless. This girl wasn't as old as him and wasn't as tall as him. In front of him, she acted like an elder. Ning Shu would sometimes go out to find out where demonic humans were and see if he could accept them. As the first batch of disciples of the sect, Ning Shu still hoped that these disciples would have a good character. Some demonic humans were already inclined towards the demon race and inherited more of the demon race's characteristics. Jiang Lu was feeding the child demon milk when he saw that his master had brought back a girl. He sighed in relief. As long as it wasn't a baby, he would accept anyone. Qing Yu glanced at Ning Shu. "You found another disciple?" Ning Shu said with a smile, "My third disciple is called Li Shulan." Jiang Lu looked at the girl. She was about 15 years old. Her body was very graceful and her face was pretty and white. Li Shulan bowed to Jiang Lu. "Eldest senior brother." Jiang Lu returned the greeting. "Little junior sister." Ning Shu explained, "Her mother is a demon and her father is a human." Jiang Lu was a little surprised. Most demonic humans had a human mother and a demon father. This girl was the opposite. This made Jiang Lu a little wary. Little junior sister's mother is willing to part with little junior sister. Li Shulan pursed her lips. She was good at reading people and could see that Jiang Lu was a little repulsed by her. She lowered her head and said, "My mother gave me to cultivator Hong Tuesday." This Hong Tu was a strong martial artist from Black City. This man's biggest characteristic was that he was lustful. He was so lustful that he didn't care about anything. He played with human women, demon women, and demonic women. Ning Shu also saw that Li Shulan was being sent to Hong Tu's residence and brought her over. Jiang Lu, so it's master. Did we offend a strong martial artist from Black City again? Jiang Lu said speechlessly. So many people wanted to snatch their sect's divine weapon. Now, they offended someone in Black City again. They couldn't stay in Black City anymore. Li Shulan knelt in front of Ning Shu. Her forehead knocked on the ground, making thumping sounds. Master, please don't chase me away. I'm willing to do anything. Please, my mother will kill me when I go back. Ning Shu didn't mind. He said, if you can't stay in this place, then go somewhere else. Ning Shu said to Li Shulan, who was kneeling on the ground, get up. Since I brought you away, I must be responsible for you. Call me master and I will do my best to protect you. Thank you, master. Chapter 686. Ning Shu snatched someone else's beauty, so he would naturally be in trouble. Black City's Hong Tu came to the inn and directly floated in the air, roaring, "Who is so bold to touch my people?" Hearing Hong Tu's voice, Li Shulan's body trembled. She looked pitifully at Ning Shu and said, "Master, please don't hand me over to him. He will definitely kill me." There were countless women who had been defiled by Hong Tuesday. Hong Tu was a powerful cultivator, and there were plenty of women who were willing to hook up with him. However, this Hong Tu had a strange hobby, and that was collecting. As long as he was tired of playing with a woman, he would cut off a part of her body as a souvenir. If they were lucky, it might be their hair or nails. If they were unlucky, it might be their fingers, eyes, nose, ears, and even their breasts. The women who wanted to get close to Hong Tu all wanted to be protected. However, they might not even be alive now, so what protection was there to talk about? No one wanted to be missing an ear or an eye. Ning Shu opened the inn's window and saw Hong Tu's gloomy face. Moreover, there were many people surrounding the inn, and it seemed like they wanted to take advantage of the situation. Someone in the crowd shouted, "It was sect leader Changmen who did it. She even has a divine artifact." When Hong Tu heard about the divine artifact, his eyes lit up. His voice became louder as he roared, "Who is the Changmen sect leader? Stand out obediently. Otherwise, I will slaughter your entire Changmen sect and turn your sect into short-lived ghosts." Hong Tu had never heard of any Changmen sect. It was probably some small sect that wanted to destroy the entire sect. Ning Shu originally wanted to retreat. There were women and children in this house, and it was not convenient to drag them along. However, now that he was being so arrogant, he had to go. Otherwise, the Changmen sect would not be able to establish their dominance. Everyone wanted the divine artifact in his hands. Why didn't he see these cultivators running to the immortal transformation sect's entrance to ask for the Black Yang sword? Ning Shu said to Qin Yu, "Help me take care of my 3 disciples. I will go and fight." Qin Yu nodded. Ning Shu pushed the door open and hung in the air, facing Hong Tu from a distance. When Hong Tu saw that Ning Shu was a woman, a lustful look immediately appeared in his eyes. As if he was giving alms, he said, "Hand over the divine artifact, and I can let you be my woman. Otherwise, you may die a terrible death." Ning Shu smiled. "What if I don't? Then I can only capture you alive and rape you before killing you. What's yours will naturally be mine." Hong Tu said matter-of-factly, "What sect? It's actually a woman who's the sect leader. Are there no men in the sect?" Ning Shu's mind moved, and the sky-opening axe appeared in his hand. Ning Shu blew on the sharp edge of the axe and said coldly, "The godly axe is in my hands. If you have the ability, come and take it." When Hong Tu saw the axe, he was excited and looked down on Ning Shu completely. He opened his arms and tried to snatch the axe from Ning Shu's hand. Ning Shu circulated his qi and swung it at Hong Tu's lower body. The axe shadow mixed with the power of the coiling dragon energy hit Hong Tu's lower body heavily. Hong Tu's expression instantly froze. He lowered his head and looked at his lower body that was dripping with blood. Then, he let out a heart-wrenching cry and fell to the ground from mid-air. Hong Tu, who fell to the ground, covered his lower body. His face was pale. Even if he had great strength, he was just like an ordinary man now. His face was twisted with pain and shock. No one dared to approach him. Some of the men even covered their lower bodies. It was painful to look at. Ning Shu saw that there were many cultivators flying over from not far away. He shouted to Qing Yu in the house, "Kelp, run now." Ning Shu shouted, but Qing Yu in the house didn't move. Ning Shu could only shout again, "Qing Yu." Only then did a kelp that was as cold as black iron reach out from the window and wrap around Ning Shu. Under everyone's gaze, Ning Shu disappeared in an instant. This made everyone look at each other. Every teleportation was a form of torture. Now that Jiang Lu was stronger, he didn't faint like before. Instead, he started vomiting. Ning Shu saw him vomiting and felt extremely disgusted. Li Shulan fainted. Ning Shu looked at his second disciple. Yes, he was still alive. He thought he couldn't withstand the pressure of teleportation. After Jiang Lu finished vomiting, he wiped the corner of his mouth. Ning Shu asked, "Master, where are we going now?" Ning Shu thought for a while and said, "We have to find a mountain. We can't drag our family down like this." Qing Yu said, "I know a place. It's very secluded and the spirit energy is okay. There's a spirit mine underneath. Oh my, this place is not just okay, it's simply amazing." Ning Shu asked, "This is such a good place. Why don't you take it?" Qing Yu didn't say anything. Obviously, he didn't want these things. They weren't tempting to him. Alright, she thought they were good things, but he didn't want them at all. Qing Yu brought them to their destination. This place was backed by a steep mountain. A jade waterfall poured down from the mountain. Qing Yu lifted his foot and stomped, saying, "There should be a spirit vein underneath." Ning Shu looked at the endless mountain range and thought, "I still have to find craftsmen to build the palace. To find craftsmen, I have to pay them. How troublesome." Qing Yu said, "The sect can be a Dharma artifact. You can directly make it into a divine artifact." Ning Shu widened his eyes and looked at Qing Yu, "Kelp, you're so cute. Then please help me make a sect, the domineering kind." Qing Yu looked at Ning Shu silently. Ning Shu changed his words, "Qing Yu, sorry to trouble you." Ning Shu took out the storage space at his waist and said, "I have many materials here. Take whatever you need." Qing Yu looked at Ning Shu's storage bag, "Leave these things for your disciple." "Alright." Ning Shu hung the bag at his waist again. "Qing Yu, I have a request." Ning Shu said. Qing Yu looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu said, "I hope that this divine artifact can't be refined." "No one can." This item was something that Changsun sect needed to ensure their safety. They were afraid that some lucky person would be able to refine the god artifact and turn it into someone else's treasure, destroying Changsun sect in one fell swoop. Jiang Lu was stunned and said, "Master, why can't you let someone refine the sect? If the sect meets with any emergency, they can bring the sect away." Ning Shu shook his head, "No. If you can refine it, others can too. But, what's the point of this divine artifact?" Jiang Lu pursed his lips and said, "If we can refine the sect's divine artifact, the sect will be safer and can protect the Changsun sect disciples." Ning Shu looked at Jiang Lu, "If we can't refine the divine artifact, there will be fewer people who want it." This was a place that Ning Shu wanted the Changsun sect disciples to live peacefully. It wasn't a divine artifact that belonged to someone. Chapter 687. Ning Shu and Jiang Lu had an argument over the divine artifact. It was the first time that Ning Shu saw Jiang Lu oppose him so much. Ning Shu said, "This divine artifact is just a house. It can shelter you from the wind and rain. It won't be very powerful. At most, it will have a stronger defense." Qin Yu frowned. "If that's the case, we won't use the divine artifact." Jiang Lu immediately said, "Senior, let's use the divine artifact. Master likes domineering things." Ning Shu narrowed his eyes and looked at Jiang Lu. He turned to Qin Yu and said, "Qin Yu, I'll have to trouble you." Qin Yu nodded and disappeared instantly. He was probably looking for a place to refine the divine artifact. Li Shulan woke up and looked at the surrounding scenery. She was a little confused and frightened. When she saw Ning Shu beside her, she heaved a sigh of relief. She quickly got up from the ground and bowed to Ning Shu. Ning Shu said, "Take good care of the child. I'll go find something for the child to eat." Jiang Li's face was a little uneasy. Ning Shu said, "Master, I'll go with you." "No need. Take good care of the child with Shulan." Ning Shu wandered around and prepared to catch a female demon beast that had just given birth. In the end, he caught a demon beast that looked like a sika deer and a goat. He tied its 4 limbs with a rope and carried it back. The child woke up. Li Shulan was helping to take care of the child. Jiang Lu saw Ning Shu carrying something and quickly helped. Ning Shu moved his neck and said, "Let's make do with this for the next few days. We'll talk about it after Qin Yu finishes refining the sect. I'll listen to Master." Li Shulan hugged the child and said. The child in her arms cried loudly. Jiang Lu took out a bowl and squeezed the demon beast's milk. Ning Shu said, "Boil it for a while and disinfect it." Jiang Lu nodded. The child cried heartbreakingly. Ning Shu took the child and comforted him. The child sobbed and sniffed. As if he smelled Ning Shu's scent, he didn't cry so hard anymore. When the demonic beast milk was ready, Jiang Lu carried the child and fed him. Ning Shu Li Shulan said, "You are a disciple of the Long Life sect, so you naturally have to cultivate our sect's cultivation technique, but this cultivation technique cannot be passed down to others, understand? Disciple swears that I will never divulge this cultivation method." Li Shulan swore. Ning Shu taught him the cultivation method of the peerless martial art. Then, he stayed by Li Shulan's side and guided her on how to guide the spiritual energy into her dantian. Jiang Lu watched from the side as he silently fed the baby milk. After feeding the baby, he placed the baby in the cradle and walked to Ning Shu and asked in a low voice, "Master, are you angry?" Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. "I'm not angry. Angry that I disobeyed you before." Jiang Li's voice was a little low. Ning Shu shook his head, "I am not angry, you are just thinking for Changsan sect." Jiang Li's expression relaxed slightly. Ning Shu said, "Don't worry about these small details, cultivating is more important than anything else." Ning Shu also sat down cross-legged and started cultivating the peerless martial art. The surrounding spiritual energy crazily surged over, even Jiang Lu and Li Shulan who were beside him benefited. For a few days, the 3 of them and the baby, other than cultivating, they cultivated. When they were hungry, they would eat the different shapes of fasting pills that Ning Shu refined. The Qi dragon in Ning Shu's dantian turned from translucent to transparent. When it was released, only Ning Shu knew where it was. No one else could see it. It was simply a sneak attack weapon. Ning Shu clenched his fist, feeling that he could smash a mountain. Strength, a huge amount of strength. Ning Shu never thought that he could be so strong. Jiang Li's chi force had also transformed. Ning Shu asked him to use his mental energy to guide the chi force out. Jiang Lu practiced for a while and released the Qi force. Jiang Li's Qi force was indeed in the shape of a tiger. Now, it was up to Li Shulan to see what shape it would take. Ning Shu was wondering if she could gather enough information to make a complete atlas of animals. Work hard, not bad. Ning Shu encouraged Jiang Lu. Go catch some wild animals for a sumptuous meal. Jiang Lu, Qin Yu had already disappeared for half a month and still hadn't appeared. Did he vomit blood and die while cultivating? So worried. After waiting for a month, Qin Yu still hadn't returned. Ning Shu was a little stunned. Did it take so long to cultivate a sect? Ning Shu stretched his neck every day waiting for Qin Yu to return. After about 2 months, Qin Yu finally returned. He looked exhausted. Ning Shu didn't feel good. He always troubled Hai Dai. Hai Dai had already repaid everything and didn't owe him anything. Ning Shu was grateful. He asked, "Are you hungry? Do you want to eat 2 fasting pills?" Qin Yu glanced at her and stretched out his hand. There was a very small house-like thing in his hand. He asked, "Where do you plan to place the sect?" "There, no, here, no, it's too close to the river. It's very humid." Ning Shu sized it up and carefully looked at where it was suitable. Qin Yu was too lazy to look. He raised his hand and the house flew into the sky. It became bigger and bigger in everyone's eyes. It covered the sky and was extremely huge. Then, it landed heavily on the ground, causing the ground to tremble. Ning Shu and his disciple looked at the sect in a daze. It was solemn and majestic. The 3 words Changsen sect were ancient and boundless. It was as if it had passed through countless years and stood until now. Ning Shu took the lead and stepped on the stairs. He was amazed along the way. There was a plaza, a hall, a bridge, and countless houses. There was a herb garden, and it was filled with spiritual soil. There was a library, an alchemy room, and all kinds of things. Ning Shu and Qin Yu said, "Thank you." Qin Yu said, "The defensive ability is not bad. It can automatically gather the surrounding spiritual energy. I set up an array. If there is any unbearable force, it will activate the array." It was simply too awesome. Ning Shu held Qin Yu's hand and shook it. "Comrade, you've worked hard." Qin Yu retracted his hand and asked, "Do you still need a protective array?" "You can set up a protective array around the sect." Okay. Ning Shu quickly nodded. "Thank you for your hard work. I feel a little embarrassed. I feel like I'm taking advantage of you." Qin Yu didn't mind. "I have nothing to do anyway." Ning Shu was speechless. Qin Yu reinforced another layer of mountain protecting formation in the sect. The sect was already hidden. It looked impregnable and gave people a sense of security. Ning Shu stood in the highest hall and said proudly, "Changsen sect is officially open. Disciple greets master." Jiang Lu and Li Shulan knelt down. Ning Shu sat on the chair and looked at the vast plaza outside. There would be more and more people here in the future. This was the place where the human demons could live peacefully. Maybe when Changsen sect became stronger, the human demons would be in a better situation. They would no longer be rats that hid and let people kill them. They were born into this world without knowing anything and were surrounded by evil. Chapter 688. Ning Shu planted the spirit herbs and ginseng that he had plundered previously in the medicinal field that was rich in spirit energy. Looking at the empty sect, he had to collect all kinds of books and artifacts. Anyway, there were too many things that needed to be filled. It was really not easy to establish a sect. A strong sect had to go through generations of accumulation and growth. Ning Shu let the 2 disciples cultivate in the sect and take good care of the children while he went out to look for disciples. Qin Yu and Ning Shu said, "I'll go with you." Okay, let's go to the Black City now, Ning Shu said. Qin Yu nodded, grabbed Ning Shu's collar, and instantly disappeared. Ning Shu was very dissatisfied. In any case, he was someone who had disciples. It was really embarrassing to be grabbed by the collar like this. When Ning Shu went to the Black City, he heard that Hong Tu was trying to save his little brother. He tried many times but to no avail unless he could cultivate to the realm of reconstructing his body. But before that, he had to be a eunuch for God knows how long. Hong Tu was so angry that he flew into a rage all day, saying that he wanted to tear Ning Shu into pieces. Ning Shu said that he liked to torture women. Now that he didn't have that, how was he going to play? However, Ning Shu didn't go to the Black City to fight, but to accept disciples. In the Black City, some little beggars were demonic humans. They couldn't survive and could only beg. But they couldn't let others know that they were demonic humans. If they knew, they wouldn't give them food at all. Ning Shu observed for a while and chose children with relatively good conduct. There were boys and girls, and he directly brought them back to the sect. He also bought many books back to let the disciples learn to read. There were all kinds of books on alchemy, refining weapons, and all kinds of strange stories. Ning Shu bought all the books that could be bought back and stuffed them in the library. He brought the newly accepted disciples back and let Jiang Lu and Li Shulan help to take care of them. He let the two of them teach these children how to cultivate. Jiang Lu was the eldest disciple. Ning Shu handed over the entire sect's affairs to him. Li Shulan assisted at the side and also had to take care of the senior brother who had just made a comeback. Both of them were always very busy. Jiang Lu was like a kindergarten principal, taking care of a large group of children. It wasn't that Ning Shu didn't want to take in the older ones, but the older ones didn't necessarily have a sense of belonging to the sect. Ning Shu was also very busy. Because the Long Life sect was lacking in resources, she had to go out to find heaven and earth treasures. When she found heaven and earth treasures, she would directly dig them out and plant them in the medicine garden. Ning Shu still had to keep some precious items and plan to exchange them in the virtual space. In his free time, Qin Yu would also help Ning Shu refine some Dharma artifacts and place them in the Dharma artifact pavilion. Occasionally, he would refine some better pills. In short, after Ning Shu's work, the entire sect was starting to look decent. It could only be said that it was an empty shell. Rome was not built in a day, and neither was the sect. He could only develop slowly. However, Ning Shu was still very happy to see a group of little radishes kneeling in front of her and calling her master. These were all her disciples. In the future, there would be more disciples and the sect would become more and more powerful. Ning Shu didn't run around anymore. She stayed in the sect and focused on cultivating, teaching Jiang Lu and the group of children. Ning Shu's current strength was almost the same as the Great Ascension stage. The coiling dragon qi in her dantian had completely turned transparent and couldn't be seen at all. Of course, with Qin Yu's strength, he could see where the coiling dragon was at a glance. However, those who weren't as strong as Qin Yu would find it difficult to detect it. No one could withstand a sneak attack. Jiang Li's strength was the strongest among the disciples. Ning Shu picked a few more children with better aptitudes to be her direct disciples. She couldn't just teach Jiang Lu. Ning Shu couldn't say it. She had an indescribable feeling towards Jiang Lu and it wasn't a good feeling. Ning Shu tried to see if she could contract a demon beast. She remembered that in Wei Liangyue's plane, she could contract spirit beasts. She just didn't know if it was the same method. Ning Shu caught a relatively powerful demonic beast to test if she could form a contract with it. After trying for a long time, it still didn't work. Ning Shu thought for a moment and understood. The heavens were fair. Demon beasts had low intelligence. Although they were strong, they shouldn't be enslaved by humans. Moreover, this was a world where humans, demons and demons were divided. Breaking the balance would lead to chaos. Since it didn't work, she had to rely on herself. Ning Shu cultivated and taught disciples every day. There was no time in the mountains. Qin Yu came to tell Ning Shu that the humans and demons were at war. Every once in a while, the humans and demons would fight for territory. Ning Shu had a smile on his face. He had waited for this day for so long. He had to go back and take revenge. Ning Shu thought for a moment and brought Jiang Lu and a few kids with slightly higher cultivation to participate in the battle. He had to make the Changsun sect famous. He had to take down the strongest person. Ning Shu stepped onto the spirit ship that Qin Yu refined and the group headed towards their destination. When Ning Shu and the group arrived at the location of the battle, the demons and humans were facing each other. Ning Shu directly drove the spirit ship to the center and said loudly, "Why didn't you inform my Changsun sect about such a big matter?" Everyone present had a cold face. They didn't care about Ning Shu at all. Ning Shu glanced at the humans and saw Qin Huajun and Yuling Air. Yuling Air's aura was not weak. She probably had a single spirit root. Qin Huajun still had the appearance of an immortal. When he saw Ning Shu, he was a bit surprised. He didn't seem to be sure if this person was his disciple. Some people saw Ning Shu and started to whisper. One of the cultivators stood out and asked Ning Shu, "Were you the one who injured the elder of my God Wind sect?" Ning Shu smiled and said, "He wanted to snatch my Changsun sect protection divine weapon. I only injured him. I didn't kill him." Hearing Ning Shu mention divine weapon, the humans were in an uproar. They all sized up Ning Shu. They also sized up Qin Yu, who was beside Ning Shu, and the few radish heads. "Are you guys going to start a war?" Ning Shu's face was troubled. "I don't even know who to help." Everyone looked at Ning Shu and the group as if they were crazy. "Xiao Susu, what are you doing?" A devil from the devil clan looked at Ning Shu. His face was incomparably handsome, but his eyes were cold and evil. His whole body exuded a powerful aura. Ning Shu looked at this demon. This should be Xiao Susu's father. He was the one who placed the restriction on Xiao Susu. Ning Shu took out the Profound Yang sword from his spatial bag and said, "Demon father, I found the Profound Yang sword. My master, Qin Huajun, gave it to me." When Ning Shu said this, the people of the Immortal Form sect looked at Qin Huajun in shock. Qin Huajun pursed his lips. His face was cold. He held the fan in his hand and looked at Ning Shu indifferently. Yuling Air, who was beside Qin Huajun, was confused. This person was her senior sister. She didn't come back for a long time. How did she become a disciple of the Gate of Life? Xiao Susu's father was surprised when he saw the sword in Ning Shu's hand. However, it was a surprise to be able to obtain the Profound Yang sword. Especially before the war, it could lower the morale of the humans. Xiao Susu's father said, "Then give me the Profound Yang sword." Chapter 689. The human race clearly did not expect the Immortal Form sect's divine weapon to be in someone else's hands. They all sized up the Immortal Form sect's people. The demon race was much happier. Xiao Susu's father clearly did not expect Xiao Susu to be able to obtain the Immortal Form sect's divine weapon. Xiao Susu's father, Ning Shu, curled his lips, making his face even more handsome. "Susu, be good and throw the Profound Yang sword over." Ning Shu nodded, "Then catch it." Ning Shu obediently threw the Profound Yang sword to Xiao Susu's father. He caught it and looked at it carefully. Then, he grabbed the sword hilt and wanted to pull it out. When he pulled out the Profound Yang sword, it was caught off guard and exploded. A red thread as thick as a strand of hair rushed into Xiao Susu's father's heart. Xiao Susu's father immediately realized that something was wrong. He quickly tore open his clothes and looked at his chest. There was something swimming in his skin. Xiao Susu's father immediately felt that his heart was being eaten by bloodthirsty insects. The hair-sized insects were swimming in his heart. It was very painful. Xiao Susu's father looked at Ning Shu with bloodshot eyes and cursed, "Bitch." He wanted to activate the restriction in Ning Shu's body. What shocked Xiao Susu's father was that Ning Shu did not explode into minced meat like he expected. Xiao Susu's father was shocked. The restriction did not work. He tried a few more times. The turn of events was too sudden. He originally thought that the demon race would obtain the profound yang sword. But now, he was infected by the bloodthirsty insects. The human race could not help but laugh in disdain and satisfaction. Qin Huajun held a folding fan and fanned himself slowly. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. He looked very relaxed and didn't look like he was here to fight at all. Ning Shu took out the heaven-splitting axe. Once the heaven-splitting axe was taken out, everyone's eyes focused on it. Some people had already seen the heaven-splitting axe before, but they could not help but breathe quickly. This was a divine weapon. Ning Shu cupped his hands towards Qin Huajun and said, "Previously, Qin Huajun and I were master and disciple. Susu appreciates Qin Huajun's care, so Susu has decided to give the Pangu heaven-opening axe to Qin Huajun." Qin Huajun was taken aback for a moment before he lightly said, "I won't accept anything from you for no reason." Ning Shu said with a smile, "It can be considered as ending our relationship as master and disciple." Seeing that Ning Shu wanted to give the heaven-splitting axe to the Immortal Form sect, the eyes of some sects turned red. The Immortal Form sect already had the profound yang sword, and now they had the heaven-splitting axe. The strength of the Immortal Form sect had once again taken a huge leap forward. The expressions of these sects were ugly. Ning Shu didn't care whether Qin Huajun would accept it or not. He threw the heaven-opening axe at him. Out of his desire for a divine artifact, Qin Huajun still caught the heaven-opening axe. "Do you have any requests for the Immortal Form sect?" Qin Huajun asked. It was impossible for the Immortal Form sect to give him the divine tool for no reason. Qin Huajun felt whether the axe in his hand was real or not. Ning Shu lightly smiled, and the axe in Qin Huajun's hand immediately turned into ashes. The blood-red worms rushed towards Qin Huajun's heart. Qin Huajun directly blocked the bloodthirsty bugs with his fan and directly used it to release fire. Seeing that the red blood threads were burned away, Ning Shu's lips curled up. Although it was a pity that the blood-red worms didn't have any effect, the powder that exploded out of the axe was poisonous. It wasn't poison made from ordinary herbs. Just one breath would cause bad luck. Moreover, Yuling Air was standing beside Qin Huajun. It would be very troublesome to be poisoned. Qin Huajun coldly looked at Ning Shu. His expression was unprecedentedly cold. It was obvious that he was made fun of by Ning Shu in front of so many people, and he was very angry. Ning Shu smiled. "I'll allow you to plot against others, but I won't allow others to plot against me." Qin Huajun coldly scolded, "You despicable human demon, what are you trying to do?" Ning Shu shrugged, "I brought my disciples here to fight, and at the same time, to spread the name of the Changsun sect. Everyone in the Changsun sect is a human demon. This is a human demon sect." Ning Shu looked at these people, "You can fight first, don't worry about us." Qin Huajun's face turned green, "Then let me see how powerful your Changsun sect is." It was obvious that he made a fool of himself just now, and now he wanted to regain his face. Ning Shu's body floated up, and he nodded, "Okay." With a thought, Ning Shu's heaven-splitting axe appeared in his hand. This was the real heaven-splitting axe. Qin Huajun looked at the heaven-splitting axe in Ning Shu's hand. "You don't have the right to have such a divine tool. Whether I have the right or not is not up to you to decide." He raised the axe, and a huge axe shadow formed behind him, chopping towards Qin Huajun. Qin Huajun squinted his eyes at Ning Shu's attack, and the fan in his hand spun, forming an endless rain of swords to resist the axe shadow. With a boom, the axe energy ignored the swords, and chopped towards Qin Huajun. Qin Huajun dodged, and the axe energy hit the ground, causing the ground to tremble, and a deep trench appeared. Ning Shu waved the heaven-splitting axe, and released the coiling dragon Qi, sneakily attacking Qin Huajun from behind. Qin Huajun formed even more swords to resist the axe energy, and he felt a slight fluctuation of spirit Qi on his back. Although it was only a very small fluctuation of spirit Qi, he still felt it, and instantly, he felt goosebumps all over his body, and he couldn't determine how big this thing was. He could only dodge instinctively. But he still felt like he was hit, and Qin Huajun felt like he was hit by a huge mountain. His organs were all shifted, and he spat out blood as he flew out. Qin Huajun fell to the ground and spat out blood, but he stood up with the help of his sword, and his face was extremely pale. Qin Huajun didn't know what sneakily attacked him, so he could only cast a spell, and his fingers brushed past his eyelids, and he saw a transparent thing not far away from him. It was a transparent roaring dragon, and it was rushing towards him. Qin Huajun dodged it with difficulty, but he was swept by the dragon's tail, and his whole body fell to the ground heavily, causing cracks to appear on the ground. Ning Shu retracted his qi, and looked down at Qin Huajun from above. Qin Huajun stuffed some pills into his mouth, and only then did he feel a little better. He was very surprised by Ning Shu's strength, and said coldly, "What kind of evil art did you cultivate? What kind of evil art can I cultivate?" Ning Shu's expression was full of disdain. "How did I lose? And you say that people cultivate evil arts? The immortal transformation sect is just a so-so." Yuling Air saw that her master was injured, and was in an extremely sorry state. She was anxious, and ran towards Qin Huajun, blocking in front of him. Ning Shu shouted with righteous indignation, "Big senior sister, you are so rebellious, how dare you fight with master? Yuling Air, go to the side." Qin Huajun said somewhat anxiously, and spat out a mouthful of blood, and there were black blood clots in the blood. Probably his internal organs were injured. Yuling Air stood in front of Qin Huajun, and said firmly, "You are injured, I will not leave. I will not let you hurt master. Big senior sister, what is going on?" Yuling Air's expression was blank, and then she said angrily, "No matter what, you should not have fought with master, and even injured him." Chapter 690. Ning Shu speechlessly looked at Yuling, who stood in front of Qin Huajun, and said, "Go to the side, you don't know what happened between me and him." Yuling opened her arms like a mother hen protecting her chicks. She looked at Ning Shu and asked, "Senior sister, what happened? Master is our master, how can you fight with him? Good girl, go to the side and play." Ning Shu said again, "You don't know the reason. But senior sister, no matter what, master is still our master. What you're doing is disgraceful. You're killing your master. Back then, you and I were going to become master's disciples. You shouldn't treat master like this." Qin Huajun frowned and clutched his chest. His chest was shaking and he felt very uncomfortable. Seeing this girl standing in front of him, Qin Huajun's heart swelled. Ning Shu was a bit impatient. He reached out and slapped Yuling away, nagging non-stop. Logically speaking, they were at the same level, but they were not as strong as her. She was too lazy to listen to his nagging. This world was just so simple and violent. If you are not convinced, then fight. If you can't win, then keep it to yourself. Ning Shu did not use too much strength and directly pushed Yuling away. Yuling rolled on the ground twice. She was not injured. Moreover, this little bit of strength could not hurt a cultivator. When Qin Huajun saw Ning Shu attacking Yuling his face changed. But when he saw Yuling standing up and was not injured, he heaved a sigh of relief. Ning Shu said coldly, "You have the blood of the demon race in your body, you are indeed vicious. She doesn't know anything, but you are still attacking her." Ning Shu carried the axe on his shoulder and said indifferently, "Don't talk about the blood of the demon race, as if all humans are good people. Qing Huajun took out his sword. Ning Shu stabbed it, but Ning Shu dodged and chopped at Qing Huajun with the axe. Qing Huajun felt uncomfortable in his chest, his body was also uncomfortable and itchy. Seeing that their own sect was at a disadvantage, the immortal form sect's people came out to help. On the other hand, the devil race didn't make a move. After all, they had someone to deal with the humans for them. Ning Shu looked at the people from the immortal form sect with a smile on his face. Are you trying to bully me with numbers? Qing Huajun coldly said, you infiltrated the immortal form sect and coveted their divine weapon, the profound yang sword. You are on the side of the devil race. Ning Shu waved his hand, don't be like this, I am the sect leader of the longevity sect, I am not from the demon race, nor am I from the human race. Are you not here for the profound yang sword? Qing Huajun asked coldly. Ning Shu raised his axe and said, what's the point of saying so much? Let's fight. Qing Huajun felt uncomfortable, while Yuling Air twisted her body and kept scratching her face and neck. Her whole body was itchy. Seeing Yuling Air's appearance, Qing Huajun felt even more itchy. He took Yuling Air and left the battlefield. Seeing the person involved leave, the immortal form sect did not know if they should continue fighting. The others were speechless when they saw Ning Shu carrying his axe and looking incomparably valiant. Ning Shu jumped back onto the spirit ship and said, you guys continue fighting, I will watch from the side and not do anything. The demon race and the human race looked at Ning Shu, especially Xiao Susu's father who was infected by the bloodthirsty worm. His eyes were red as he looked at Ning Shu. Bitch. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows, then I will back off a bit, you guys continue fighting. The spirit ship moved back a bit. Jianglu and Ning Shu asked, Master, which side should we help? Ning Shu looked at the axe, help what, we are just here to watch the show. Jianglu looked at Ning Shu with some confusion and said, didn't you say you were going to help revive the longevity sect? Ning Shu said, I am reviving it now. Didn't I defeat Qing Huajun of the immortal form sect? I defeated the most powerful person and established my dominance. Qing Huajun was the youngest soul formation stage cultivator and he was even more powerful than before. Ning Shu thought that if it wasn't for the advantage of his energy and divine weapon, it would be difficult for him to defeat Qing Huajun. Her strength was improving, but Qing Huajun's strength was also improving. Jianglu frowned, Master, do you not have confidence in the longevity sect you established? Ning Shu put away the sky-splitting axe and said calmly, humans, demons, and monsters are the three legs of the tripartite balance. It is the human race and the demon race that are fighting each other. People like us who can't do anything because of our bloodline are in the minority. What we need to do is to survive, not compete with the human race and the demon race. Jianglu pursed his lips, are we just going to watch? No, we can fight whoever we don't like. Let's fight the demon race is also a threat to us. The demon race could absorb essence blood, even their own kind. You take a few junior brothers to fight the demon race, Ning Shu said. They were in a very awkward situation. There was no place for both the human race and the demon race. They felt stifled. Ning Shu gave each of his disciples a magic weapon and said, don't fight with the powerful demon race. If you can't win, run. Let your senior brothers protect you. Yes, Master. The human race and the demon race attacked each other after testing each other. However, some people still paid attention to Ning Shu's side and were on guard. However, Ning Shu's force was nothing compared to the human race and the demon race. Jianglu took a few junior brothers to fight at the edge of the demon race. Ning Shu paid attention to his disciples and didn't let them get hurt. Qin Yu stood next to Ning Shu and looked at the chaotic battle below. He said, actually, you don't need to establish a sect at all. Your technique gives these human race and demons a new way out. Why are you working so hard? Ning Shu said, it's always good to have a sect. A sect will only restrict the spread of this technique. Qin Yu said, with a sect, there will be conflicts of interest. Ning Shu rubbed his forehead and thought about what he should do. Previously, Ning Shu was still using this peerless technique as a sect's technique. He didn't want to spread it out because he was afraid that the human race or the demon race would cultivate this technique. However, the human race and demons scattered in this world couldn't all join the Changsun sect and let the Changsun sect become an organization of human race and demons. Ning Shu released his qi and saved a disciple. Then, he brought him back. This was the first time the disciple killed someone. His face was pale and he started to vomit. He looked very pitiful. Ning Shu didn't comfort him. Cultivating, fighting with the heavens, fighting with people, one naturally had to go through all these. Not long later, Jiang Lu brought a few disciples back. Some of them were injured. Ning Shu stuffed healing pills into their mouths. Ning Shu drove the spirit ship back to the sect. After returning to the sect, Ning Shu sat on a chair in the main hall and said to his disciples, "I plan to spread the sect's technique." The other disciples didn't have any reaction. Jiang Lu frowned and asked, "Master, isn't this the sect's technique? When you passed it to me, you swore that you wouldn't let me spread it out. You said that the human race can also cultivate it. Why are you spreading it out now?" Chapter 691. Jiang Lu really couldn't understand what was going on in Ning Shu's mind. She was so different from time to time. Opening a sect seemed like a joke to him. The divine tool didn't allow people to refine it, and now he wanted to spread the sect's cultivation method. Ning Shu said, "It's good that this cultivation method can be cultivated by other demons." Jiang Lu pursed his lips and said, "When the sect is strong, you can join the sect and cultivate. Spreading the cultivation method out is the meaning of the sect's existence." Ning Shu looked at Jiang Lu and said faintly, "The more people there are, the better. As the only sect of the demonic humans, how can it be meaningless?" "Jiang Lu, you seem to have a big opinion." Ning Shu looked at Jiang Lu condescendingly. Jiang Lu cupped his hands and said, "Disciple doesn't dare. Disciple is thinking from the perspective of the sect." Ning Shu grunted, "Go and cultivate. Shulan, stay." Jiang Lu pursed his lips and glanced at Ning Shu and Li Shulan. He cupped his hands and left with his disciple. Li Shulan and Ning Shu saluted and shouted, "Disciple greets master." Ning Shu looked at Li Shulan, who was becoming more and more beautiful. He smiled and asked, "How are you in the sect?" Li Shulan said, "Very happy." "Well, you should worry more about the sect." Ning Shu told Li Shulan. Li Shulan grunted. "Cultivate well. Do you think it's wrong for me to spread this cultivation method?" Ning Shu asked Li Shulan. "Disciple will listen to master." Li Shulan said obediently. "I'm asking for your opinion." Ning Shu looked at Li Shulan. Li Shulan said, "Master is right." Ning Shu, after thinking about it, Ning Shu decided to distribute the cultivation method. He directly went to Black City and gave the cultivation method to some human devils. As for whether human devils would cultivate or not, Ning Shu didn't care. On the other hand, Qin Huajun and Yuling were in a much more miserable state. It was unknown what kind of poison they had been poisoned with, but their entire bodies were itching unbearably. Qin Huajun's cultivation base was high, and he was able to suppress it with his own cultivation base. However, Yuling was not able to do so. Her cultivation was not as high as Qin Huajun's, so she could only keep grabbing at the poisonous powder. It could only be said that Yuling was unjustly implicated. Ning Shu's target was Qin Huajun. Yuling stood beside Qin Huajun and breathed in the poisonous powder. When Qin Huajun saw Yuling scratches on her face, she anxiously went to find the antidote. Because Qin Huajun was busy looking for the antidote for Yuling and himself, he didn't participate in the war. He continued to search for the ingredients needed for the antidote pill. Ning Shu brought his disciples to participate in the great war between humans and demons. Most of the time, he brought his disciples out for a walk. This gave the Changsan sect some reputation. Then, Ning Shu let Qin Yu bring him around the world. If they met a human demon, he would teach him a cultivation technique. Anyways, Qin Yu's teleportation ability was great. Ning Shu asked Qin Yu, "How's your progress in breaking through the void?" Qin Yu sighed, "I'm trying to determine the point outside the plane, but I still haven't touched this point." Ning Shu could only comfort him, "Take it slow, it will be determined eventually. There must be a pattern, although I don't know what the pattern is." Ning Shu asked 2333 in his heart, "How do we determine the point between the wormholes?" 2333 said, "The distance between this point can be calculated. There are countless points, and the points might not be accurate. The system can calculate it. As for how this kelp is going to break through the plane, it has to depend on itself." Damn, it's so complicated. Ning Shu looked at Qin Yu, "Take it slow, we will find the point to break through the plane. I have faith in you." Qin Yu looked at Ning Shu silently and didn't say anything. Ning Shu couldn't stand Qin Yu's silent disdain. "Say what you want to say." Qin Yu shook his head, "I don't have anything to say." Ning Shu thought the war between humans and demons was in full swing. Some demons who weren't strong took advantage of the chaos to sneak into human territory and started massacring mortals. When Ning Shu passed by, he directly exterminated these devils, leaving not even ashes behind. Ning Shu thought that his mission this time should be over. The Changsan sect was on the right track and had more and more disciples. They probably had some reputation in the war. Some demons took the initiative to join the Changsan sect. Among these disciples, Jianglu became more and more stable. He had the charisma of a leader, but he had a dignified appearance and was in high spirits. When Jianglu saw Ning Shu, he would smile and greet Ning Shu with cupped fists, calling him master. Ning Shu would occasionally check on Jiang Li's cultivation. Jiang Li's cultivation speed was quite fast and his energy was getting thicker and thicker. When he released his energy, the giant tiger roared towards the sky. It felt like a tiger roaring in the forest and all beasts bowing down to it. When one started cultivating an ultimate martial art, it couldn't compare to a cultivation technique. But the more one cultivated, the stronger it got. It could also nourish the body and adjust the genes of the body. Ning Shu squinted his eyes and looked at the energy released by Jianglu. This tiger was really fierce. "Master, can I cultivate to be as strong as you?" Jianglu asked Ning Shu. Ning Shu nodded, "Definitely." Jianglu asked again, "Will I be stronger than you?" Ning Shu, "Master." Jianglu looked at Ning Shu. "Yes." Ning Shu said calmly. Jianglu smiled, "The stronger I am, the more I can protect the sect." Ning Shu smiled and didn't say anything. Qin Yu had been studying day and night on how to break through the void and leave this world. Qin Yu was obsessed with one thing and didn't care about anything else. Ning Shu patted Qin Yu's shoulder, "Take your time, I might have to leave." "Oh." Qin Yu nodded. "Good luck," Ning Shu said with a smile. She should be leaving this world soon. After all, she changed Xiao Susu's fate. The fatal seal on her was gone and with her current strength, there were very few people who could kill her. Ning Shu just sat on the bed and was about to cultivate when 2333's voice sounded in her mind, "Mission failed, failed." Ning Shu didn't have time to be surprised when she felt a huge force pressing down on her soul. Her soul felt like it was going to collapse. Then, a force protected Ning Shu's soul. It was so painful that Ning Shu wanted to die. So this was what it felt like to be erased. After returning to the system space, Ning Shu lay on the sofa and held her head. It was very painful. The power of erasing was still in her soul. After some time, the feeling of tearing her soul apart finally subsided. Ning Shu looked down at her soul. It was a little dim. She didn't care why she failed the mission and started to cultivate her soul. When her soul was finally full, Ning Shu asked 2333 anxiously, "Why did I fail the mission?" She helped Xiao Susu change her life, got rid of the seal and became stronger. Why? Wasn't her goal to get rid of the bloodline shackles? Chapter 692. Ning Shu didn't know what he did wrong to cause this mission to fail. If Xiao Susu wanted to turn herself into a living demon, then there was nothing she could do. If it wasn't for the amulet, she would have been obliterated. Ning Shu asked 2333, "Why did it fail?" 2333 pondered for a moment and said, "It was Xiao Susu who judged that you failed the mission." Ning Shu was even more puzzled. Xiao Susu appeared in the system space. Ning Shu asked her, "Why did you judge that my counterattack failed?" Xiao Susu pursed her lips and said, "You didn't do anything in that world. Your cultivation speed was very fast, you obtained treasures of heaven and earth, you obtained divine artifacts, and you established a sect. And I am not a person with good talent. Your counterattack is not my life at all." Xiao Susu said faintly. Ning Shu frowned, "If I am not strong, how can I break free from the shackles of the bloodline? But when you killed everyone, there were people who helped you, but I didn't." Xiao Susu said, "I paid with my soul, but I am not satisfied with your counterattack." To put it bluntly, she saw that Ning Shu's life in that world was too smooth, and then looked at her own bitter life. It was simply ironic. Okay. Ning Shu was speechless and asked, "Then will you ask other mission takers to help you counterattack?" Xiao Susu shook her head, "No." Ning Shu silently chanted the clear heart mantra in his heart to suppress his annoyance. "Then you are not going to counterattack?" Ning Shu raised his eyebrows and asked. Xiao Susu was silent for a moment and said, "I plan to go back." "What do you mean?" Ning Shu looked at Xiao Susu strangely, "Go back to the world where I counterattacked." Xiao Susu nodded. Ning Shu rolled her eyes, her face turning cold. "You've determined that I've failed my mission, and now you want me to return to the world where I've counterattacked. Are you trying to freeload? You don't want to pay with your soul force, do you?" Xiao Susu pursed her lips and didn't say anything. 2333 said, "Those who don't follow the rules will be killed." Xiao Susu's face was filled with fear. Her soul was slowly disappearing. She shouted, "I won't go back, let me go, let me go." Xiao Susu's soul had completely disappeared, but Xiao Susu's painful wails were still echoing in the system space. Ning Shu saw a soul being obliterated in front of him, and he was a little frightened. If she didn't have a protective talisman, she would have disappeared like Xiao Susu. Ning Shu rubbed his forehead, feeling very tired. "Will the client be killed as well?" Ning Shu asked. She had always thought that only mission givers would be obliterated. She did not expect that mission givers would be obliterated as well. 2333 said solemnly, "Giving life a chance to counterattack. Giving one soul so that others can counterattack, one must abide by the rules. Many people want to counterattack but do not have the chance. Alright, I guess I did this quest for nothing." 2333 reminded Ning Shu, "Next time when you accept a quest, make sure you tell the person who asked you to do it. Tell them that there is a price to pay for a counterattack." Ning Shu nodded, "I know." This time, she took it as a loss. It was a pity that she had used 35 merit points to exchange for the protective talisman. "Does the mission fail as long as the mission fails?" Ning Shu asked. If she failed, she would be obliterated. If the mission giver said that she failed, it would be a failure. No matter how many protective talismans she had, it would not be enough. 2333 said, "Not only the mission giver, there is another way to calculate it. The reason why you failed this quest is mostly because the cheat was too big. Once you leave, the luck will not stay with the mission giver. Ning Shu, T_T, tears rolling over table. She felt that she would never love again. Sure enough, cannon fodder should be cannon fodder. Don't be the main character. Ning Shu lay on the sofa dispiritedly. Sleep. Nothing could dispel the gloominess in her heart. Perhaps that plane was kind enough to give her luck. But, she would cry if she said too much. Ning Shu kept thinking in her heart. She had to live the mission giver's life as her own to counterattack. But, cheating had even become her fault. Sleep. After sleeping for an unknown amount of time, Ning Shu woke up. She was not so depressed anymore. Ning Shu 2333 said, I want to see what happened after I left that world. After all, it was a sect she established. Ning Shu wanted to see it. Okay. 2333 said, this world will develop according to your counterattack. A screen appeared in front of Ning Shu. It showed Ning Shu's posture when she died. However, there was some dust on her clothes. It seemed that she had been dead for a while. Didn't I just return to the space? It feels like a long time has passed there. Ning Shu asked. The flow of time is different. Ning Shu looked at the image on the screen. Jiang Lu pushed open the door and walked in. He saw the person sitting cross-legged on the bed. The person on the bed had his head lowered. He seemed to be asleep. Jiang Lu cupped his hands and said, Master. Jiang Lu waited for his master to respond. However, she did not move for a long time. He frowned and walked over, shouting, Shizuan. Jiang Lu put his hand in front of her nose. When he felt that there was no breath, he quickly retracted his hand with a shocked expression. She pursed her lips tightly. Her eyes were shining. Jiang Lu did not inform the others that the sect leader was gone. Instead, he knelt in front of the corpse and kowtowed 3 times. Then, he grabbed the heaven-splitting axe beside the corpse. The heaven-splitting axe was very heavy. Moreover, Jiang Lu did not refine it. It was very difficult for him to pick it up. Jiang Lu looked at the heaven-splitting axe in his hand and smiled. He looked at the corpse and said, Disciple will definitely bring glory to the sect that Master established. Jiang Lu extended his hand and touched the corpse's head. The corpse immediately turned into ashes. Jiang Lu said, But Master, your era has passed. This guy. Seeing this, Ning Shu could not help but raise his eyebrows. When he was thinking about whether to accept Jiang Lu as his disciple, he hesitated for a long time. In the end, he accepted Jiang Lu. With today's result, Ning Shu had a faint premonition. Jiang Lu had the nature of an ambitious and ruthless person. As long as he was given a ladder to ascend to the heavens, he would definitely climb it. Jiang Lu, who got the heaven-splitting axe, used his fastest speed to refine it. He then held a sect meeting and took out the heaven-splitting axe to announce that he was the sect leader. Many people were curious about where their master went. Jiang Li's explanation was that his master and senior Qing Yu went to search for a higher level. Qing Yu was gone and the sect-protecting weapon was in Jiang Li's hands. He was also the eldest disciple and was the strongest. There was nothing wrong with him becoming the sect leader. Jiang Lu bowed towards the portrait of the ancestor, Ning Shu, and officially became the sect leader of Changsun sect. Chapter 693. Ning Shu saw that Jiang Lu had become the sect leader of Changsun sect. He was getting stronger and stronger, which made Changsun sect a little famous among the demonic humans. Moreover, Jiang Lu was a very vicious person. Once provoked, he would strike like lightning. When he was under Ning Shu, he was able to restrain himself a little. Now, he had nothing to worry about. However, this was a world where the strong were respected and there was no right or wrong. Only fierce methods would make others wary. Jiang Lu had shown his desire for Changsen sect before. When Ning Shu said that the sect's god artifact was not to be refined by anyone, he was very against it. When Ning Shu said that he wanted to spread the ultimate technique, Jiang Lu also objected and said that only those who joined Changsen's sect could cultivate it. Jiang Lu didn't care about the demonic humans in this world. He only cared about Changsen sect's benefits and his own rights. What made Ning Shu more gratified was that her peerless martial arts were practiced by many people, including demi-devils and humans. After turning off the screen, Ning Shu laid on the sofa and didn't say a word. He had never failed a mission before. He actually failed this time. No matter how much he said that he didn't mind, he still felt bad. Do you want to open up your status panel and be happy? 2333 said. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. I failed the mission. No points, no stats. How annoying. How can I be happy? I'm not opening it. 2333 said, there's a surprise. Surprise. Ning Shu immediately sat up and opened his status panel. Number, 2333 Name, Ning Shu, Intermediate Mission Taker, Age, 27 points, 5. 15 million Soul, 300 Health, 71 Wisdom, 224 Charm, 10 Luck, 54 Spirit, 130 Faith, 641000 Martial Strength, 142 Qualifications, 59 Merit, 301000 Skills, 5th Ring Spear Technique, Trash Fighting Technique, Beginner Ultimate Technique, Beginner Poison Technique, Beginner Business Management Knowledge, Beginner Code Programming, Beginner Lawyer Skills. Honorary Title, Wargid Selfless Ancestor Items, Calm Halo, Faith Halo, Talisman 6-1 Halo, Mother of the World, Queen's Blessing, Model Worker, Qin Shi's Blessing, Leader Halo, Grass Blessing, Best Friend for a Lifetime, Miao Miao Miao's Blessing, Lifesaver, Zhu Sunyang's Blessing. Ning Shu looked at his stats and was shocked. He had gained 1,000 points of faith and 10,000 merit points. Oh my God, Ning Shu suddenly felt as if gold had fallen from the sky. It was too unbelievable. Ning Shu asked, why is there so much merit? It's probably because of that plane. The countless living beings in that plane were all born because of you, causing the plane to return to the sea of laws, giving birth to new laws and living beings. Ning Shu clutched his chest. It was indeed a pleasant surprise. The gloominess in Ning Shu's heart immediately dissipated by quite a bit. No matter what, it was fine as long as there was a harvest. Your Ultimate Martial Arts book has also changed. 2333 reminded Ning Shu. Ning Shu quickly took out the Ultimate Martial Arts book. When Ning Shu received the book, it was already a little damp and moldy. If it wasn't placed in the system space, it would have been eaten by worms. But this book had become very new. The pages faintly glowed with a golden light. On the page, there were 4 words in small seal script, Ultimate Martial Arts. Ning Shu was a little excited. He opened the book. The incantation and movement method had disappeared. Instead, there were pictures of animals. The first page was a roaring tiger. The second page was a crane. The third page was an eagle. There were all kinds of animals, elephants, snakes, cows, every page was an animal. There were also some white pages with no animals on them. Ning Shu had a faint guess in his heart. He asked 2333, is it that people who cultivate ultimate martial arts will form Qi Jin on these pages? Should be. 2333 said, this may be a support for you. Even in the modern world where spiritual energy is scarce, you can cultivate Qi Jin and strengthen your body. That's great. Ning Shu hugged the book. Although the mission failed, the harvest this time was enough. Ning Shu's mood instantly became better. He took the star sand and went to the virtual space to find the silver-haired man. After a moment of absent-mindedness, Ning Shu stood on the quaint street of the virtual space. Ning Shu took the things and went to the consultation room. When he walked into the consultation room, Ning Shu smelled the fragrance of agarwood. When he smelled this fragrance, he felt his soul become incomparably calm. The dust in his soul slowly disappeared. Ning Shu desperately inhaled as much as he could. The silver-haired man came out from the inner room. When he saw Ning Shu, he just raised his eyebrows. The silver-haired man had a leather book in his hand. Ning Shu was a little curious. What kind of book was this? Please sit. The silver-haired man sat down. Ning Shu sat opposite him. He straightened his back and stretched his neck to see what book it was. However, he couldn't see anything. The book was clearly in front of him, but Ning Shu's mind was a mess. Since he couldn't see it, Ning Shu gave up and said, "I found the star sand." The silver-haired man's face showed a surprised expression. So fast. Ning Shu took out the star sand he obtained from the mission world and placed it on the table. The silver-haired man glanced at Ning Shu and stretched out his slender fingers to pick up the star sand. He looked at it carefully and nodded. "It's star sand. How did you find it?" the silver-haired man asked. Ning Shu pursed his lips and said, "Would you believe me if I said I picked it up on the road?" The silver-haired man just glanced at Ning Shu and asked, "What do you want to exchange for? What treasure do you want?" Ning Shu waved his hand. "I don't want treasure. In the future, I'll ask you for advice for free." "No." The silver-haired man refused directly. Ning Shu, fuck, sometimes, you can't pay for a question even if you sell your entire fortune, the silver-haired man said indifferently. Ning Shu, how about this? I can give you 3 chances to ask questions for free. How about that? The silver-haired man said. So stingy. Ning Shu bargained. 10 times. The silver-haired man just looked at Ning Shu and didn't say anything. 8 times. 7 times. 6 times. 5 times. 5 times. Can't be less. 3 times, the silver-haired man said indifferently. You can choose not to exchange. Fuck, the shop is bullying the customer. Ning Shu could only nod. I'll exchange. The silver-haired man nodded. Very good. Ning Shu felt stifled and stared at the silver-haired man. The silver-haired man asked, "Do you have any questions?" Ning Shu wanted to ask who the silver-haired man was and why he had such hair. After thinking about it, he didn't want to waste the 3 chances. They weren't on the same level, so what if he knew? The silver-haired man kept the star sand and left with the book. Ning Shu stood up slowly and inhaled the agarwood fragrance. Then, he slowly walked out of the consultation room. Then, he planned to go to the restaurant to eat something. Every time he came to the virtual space, he felt that he had to eat a meal to be satisfied. Chapter 694. Ning Shu walked into the restaurant and the waiter came over. Ning Shu said, "Sir, a guest wants to share a table with you. Please go over there." Ning Shu looked in the direction the waiter was pointing and saw the well-dressed Zhang Jiasen smiling at her from afar. Ning Shu immediately got goosebumps and turned to leave. The waiter immediately said, "Sir, the guest knows that you don't want to go over. He asked me to bring you a message." "What message?" Ning Shu raised her eyebrows and looked at Zhang Jiasen. "We can work together," the waiter said. Working with Zhang Jiasen? Bullshit. She would have to count the money for Zhang Jiasen if she sold it. Ning Shu turned around and walked out of the restaurant. Zhang Jiasen shook his head and caught up with Ning Shu. Ning Shu looked at him warily. "I don't understand. Why are you fighting with me? Are you looking for revenge?" Zhang Jiasen said indifferently, "Everything in the past is just a passing cloud. Why would I look for you for revenge? I just want to work with you. Besides, we are acquaintances, aren't we?" They weren't acquaintances at all. Ning Shu refused. There's no need to work together. We might not meet in the same plane. Zhang Jiasen said, if we happen to meet in the same plane, if we are enemies and don't know each other, won't we both lose? That's why I want to work together. After all, we are acquaintances. Ning Shu nodded and didn't say anything. Zhang Jiasen's eyes flashed and he said, if we meet in the same world, it's very important to know each other's existence. To be honest, I don't want to be enemies with you. And then? Ning Shu looked at Zhang Jiasen. Zhang Jiasen took out a red string and said, this item can let us know each other's existence. Ning Shu saw the item in Zhang Jiasen's hand and her pupils constricted. Wasn't this the fucking string of affection? Zhang Jiasen actually took out the string of affection. This unscrupulous bitch. Ning Shu sneered and said, no need. Ning Shu turned around and walked away. Zhang Jiasen reached out and touched Ning Shu's arm. As soon as he touched it, he immediately withdrew his hand. The strings of affection followed Zhang Jiasen's touch and entered Ning Shu's arm. Finally, it formed a red rope around his wrist. Ning Shu lowered his head and looked at his wrist. He looked at Zhang Jiasen coldly. Zhang Jiasen smiled and said, this way, if we meet on the same plane, we won't be strangers, and we won't kill each other. Ning Shu rolled his eyes and raised his hand. Look carefully. The red rope on Ning Shu's wrist gradually dissipated. Finally, it turned into red smoke and disappeared. The string of love was no longer tied to Ning Shu's wrist. Faced with such a situation, Zhang Jiasen only raised his eyebrows and said calmly, you don't agree? Why should I agree? You used the string of affection on me. What? Did you think I was Meow Meow Meow, who was tricked by you and lost her life? Ning Shu's face was full of sarcasm. If you want revenge, we'll make it clear. Ning Shu took 2 steps back. Zhang Jiasen smiled and shook his head. Just because we didn't get along, you have such great enmity towards me. Ning Shu, what the fuck, you're clearly the bitch with bad intentions. How can you say I have enmity? Yes, I have great enmity towards you. Ning Shu said to number 233 in his mind, return to the system space. Zhang Jiasen just watched indifferently as Ning Shu disappeared. He turned around and walked away indifferently. Ning Shu returned to the system space. He sat cross-legged on the sofa and silently chanted the mind-cleansing mantra. He was really angered by Zhang Jiasen. Did he really think that the halo of faith that could block all curses was just for show? Fortunately, Ning Shu was at a disadvantage as an empress. He immediately exchanged for the halo of faith that could block curses. He didn't expect that the first time he used it would be on Zhang Jiasen. This bitch definitely wanted revenge. She caused him to commit suicide. She even killed the innocent Meow Meow Meow. There was no way he would let her go. Ning Shu was a little gloating. The string of affection was destroyed. You wasted your points. You deserved it. Ning Shu didn't plan to do any more quests. Ning Shu still hadn't adjusted his mood after this incident. He pulled out a book from the bookshelf and carefully read it. After he finished reading, he put the book back on the shelf. Ning Shu took the watering can and watered the bright flowers. He still felt uncomfortable, so he just lay on the bed and slept. After a comfortable sleep, he sat on the sofa and said to number 233, let's see who asked for this quest. Okay. As soon as number 233's voice fell, a woman appeared in the system space. This woman had short curly hair. She was about 50 years old. Ning Shu was a little surprised. This was the first time he saw such an old client. My name is Yang Zi. I want you to help me counterattack. Yang Zi said to Ning Shu. She looked up and down at Ning Shu, you are so young. Yang Zi's expression was a little suspicious, you are a quest taker. Ning Shu nodded, counterattacking has a price. You need to pay with your soul. Are you sure you want to counterattack? Yang Zi was silent for a moment. She nodded and said, For my son, I am willing. Ning Shu confirmed again, Are you sure you want to counterattack? I am sure. Yang Zi said. Ning Shu heard that the quest taker was her son. He nodded and accepted, I will accept the quest. Yang Zi's soul disappeared from the system space. Ning Shu did 2 chest expansions, took a deep breath, and said, Let's enter the mission. Okay. As soon as 2333's voice fell, Ning Shu felt a wave of dizziness. By the time Ning Shu's body was fully integrated with her body, before she could even open her eyes, she heard thumping sounds coming from the room next door. Ning Shu's heart was burning with anger. He was very irritated. Ning Shu silently chanted the clear heart mantra in his heart. He was sweating all over. It was very uncomfortable. Ning Shu felt uncomfortable all over. He was irritable, and his heart was palpitating. These symptoms were definitely menopausal syndrome. It was so fucking miserable. He was sad when his period came, but it was even worse when it didn't. Ning Shu silently chanted the clear heart mantra. When he calmed down a little, he began to accept the plot. Yang Zi was a single mother. She divorced her husband before the 7-year itch. Yang Zi's husband was the kind of person who met his true love after marriage. He met his true love, who was very simple and not pretentious. She was very different from the old woman at home. He was willing to pay a large amount of alimony to divorce Yang Zi. Yang Zi raised the child, and then the husband happily married his true love. Every month, he gave Yang Zi and their son, Wang Bo, living expenses. Yang Zi was a kind person. She was not kind. She was more like a coward. She lived alone with her 6-year-old son. After so many years, she did not have a family. Chapter 695. Yang Zi was the kind of person who didn't want to argue with others and would take a step back. She was an honest and sincere person. Under her guidance, her son, Wang Bo, was also such a person. Furthermore, he grew up in a single-parent family, so he was somewhat taciturn. He wasn't married even when he was in his 30s. However, Wang Bo met a woman who was 2 years older than him, Kai Anchi. This Kai Anchi was a beautiful woman with delicate features. She said to Wang Bo that he was very honest and sincere, unlike other men who indulged in debauchery. He looked very reliable. Wang Bo was flattered and the two gradually started to interact with each other. In the end, they got married. To be able to marry a wife like this, Wang Bo naturally doted on her. Yang Zi also treated this daughter-in-law very well. She usually didn't let her do the housework and treated her like an ancestor. Wang Bo and Yang Zi were married for 2 years but didn't get pregnant. Wang Bo didn't mind either. He had also been married for a few years but didn't have children. Finally, Kai Anchi was pregnant. However, from the moment she was pregnant, she kept bleeding. Wang Bo wanted to bring Kai Anchi to the hospital. Kai Anchi didn't want to go to the hospital and said that she was just weak. However, the bleeding symptoms didn't alleviate and the child couldn't be saved. Although Wang Bo was sad, he was more concerned about Kai Anchi's health. He asked the doctor what caused the miscarriage and asked him to be more careful next time. The doctor directly said with disdain that the uterus was as thin as a piece of paper after a few scrapes. How could the child be implanted in the bed? Wang Bo felt as if he was struck by lightning. Kai Anchi lied to him. She was a woman who loved to play. When she was slightly older, her family urged her to find an honest man to spend the rest of her life with. Since ancient times, brothel girls and women who were tired of playing would find honest men to spend the rest of their lives with. Such men had a common name, taker. After this miscarriage, Kai Anchi couldn't have children anymore. Kai Anchi didn't really care and even said that she wanted to continue living with Wang Bo. Wang Bo was angered to death by Kai Anchi's attitude. Not only did Kai Anchi lie to him, but she also unknowingly acted high and mighty in front of him. He was willing to dote on her because she was a good woman. However, only now did he realize that she was a woman who didn't love herself and had played with countless men. Wang Bo wanted a divorce, but Kai Anchi was dead set on it. She said that he had to pay a sum of money before the divorce. Wang Bo only wanted freedom. Even if he was given money, he still wanted a divorce. Kai Anchi had cheated him and divorced him with a sum of money. Just thinking about it made him furious. Wang Bo had experienced an unhappy marriage. After the divorce, he didn't want to get married again. Yang Zi was worried to death. She hated Kai Anchi in her heart. Yang Zi's wish was for her son to get married and for Kai Anchi to pay the price. After Ning Shu accepted the plot, he could only say that the shameless villain lived a carefree life, while the honest person was hurt. It was hard to have such a daughter-in-law. This society was open, but it had not reached the point of being perverted. Although it was a modern society, the restrictions on women were not reduced. Ning Shu couldn't help but despise such a woman in his heart. She would take advantage of her youth to play freely, and when she was a little older, she would find an honest and steady man who wouldn't indulge in debauchery and get married. Let a man like Wang Bo pay the bill. She bowed and groveled in front of a scumbag, but in front of an honest person, she was arrogant. Now that Wang Bo and Kai Anchi were married, it was their honeymoon period. He didn't know what was going on in the next room, but there was a knocking sound. It was probably a game of, "Come and chase me, if you catch me, I'll let you have sex with me." Ning Shu felt that his body was covered in night sweat. He took a shower, then sat cross-legged on the bed and began to cultivate the ultimate martial arts. After cultivating for a long time, Ning Shu was interrupted by a knock on the door. He stopped cultivating, and a very small trace of Qi Jin was produced in his body. It felt good. In the past, it was impossible to cultivate Qi Jin in the modern world. It was probably because of the support of the ultimate martial arts. There was another knock on the door, followed by a man's voice. "Mom." Ning Shu got up from the bed, put on his slippers, and opened the door. He saw Wang Bo and Kai Anchi. Wang Bo had a medium build and an honest face. He was quite good-looking, but he was honest and didn't seem very charming. Ning Shu asked, "What's the matter?" Wang Bo said, "Mom, it's time for lunch." Ning Shu, "Do you want her to make lunch now?" Ning Shu glanced at the pretty Kai Anchi. Although her facial features weren't stunning, they were still very beautiful together. "I'm not feeling well today, so I won't be cooking." Ning Shu looked at Kai Anchi. "Daughter-in-law, you do it. I'm really not feeling well." "Mom, are you okay?" Wang Bo heard Ning Shu say that he wasn't feeling well, so he quickly said, "Do you want to go to the hospital?" Ning Shu waved his hand. "It's just that I'm old, so it's normal for me to not feel well." "Daughter-in-law, you'll be cooking today." Kai Anchi pursed her lips and said, "Why don't we order takeout? It's too hot to cook in summer." "Huh, you're hot when you cook, but I'm not hot when I cook." Ning Shu smiled and said, "The food outside is not clean, but the food at home is clean." Kai Anchi frowned and pulled Wang Bo's sleeve. Wang Bo glanced at Kai Anchi. Ning Shu said, "Mom, let's order takeout." Ning Shu nodded. "That's good." Kai Anchi almost couldn't help but roll her eyes. She said that the other party wouldn't agree no matter what, but as soon as her son said it, she immediately agreed. TSK, such behavior, Kai Anchi took out her phone and called the restaurant to order food. Ning Shu listened by the side. The dishes Kai Anchi ordered were all quite expensive. A home-cooked dish was a few dozen to 100 yuan, and if she didn't order a single dish, a meal would cost a few hundred yuan. With such extravagance, the three of them couldn't eat so much. This family wasn't very rich, but it could be considered passable. The original owner was a company employee, and now she had retired and had some pension. In addition to the alimony that her ex-husband had given for so many years, her son was now working, and his salary was average. Back then, Kai Anchi had considered many aspects before choosing such a family. Kai Anchi ordered so many dishes, but Ning Shu didn't say anything. Wang Bo first looked at Ning Shu. Seeing that Ning Shu didn't have any objections, he was relieved and sat on the sofa with Kai Anchi to watch TV. He also peeled a banana for Kai Anchi. Ning Shu sat on the sofa and waited for the takeout. Not long after, the doorbell rang and the takeout arrived. Wang Bo paid the bill and placed the dishes on the table. He said to the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law sitting on the sofa, "Let's eat." The dishes on the table were very sumptuous. The dishes were placed on half the table, and the aroma was overflowing. Ning Shu sat down to eat, and the two people opposite him kept picking up food. Wang Bo kept picking up food for Kai Anchi. Kai Anchi looked a little impatient and said, "Don't pick up food, I have a lot in my bowl. You eat too." Chapter 696. Kai Anchi ordered so many dishes that she couldn't finish them all. Moreover, Kai Anchi didn't eat much in the first place, so there was a lot left. After Kai Anchi finished eating, she pushed the bowl away and left the table. She didn't think about cleaning up the table and went straight to the bedroom. Wang Bo was about to clean up the table when Kai Anchi stood at the door of the bedroom and shouted to Wang Bo, "Come here and help me get something. I can't reach it." Wang Bo looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu said indifferently, "Go, I'll clean it up." Wang Bo walked towards Kai Anchi happily. Kai Anchi closed the door and didn't know what she was doing in the room. Ning Shu looked at the mess on the table and curled his lips. He wrapped the dishes in plastic wrap and put them in the fridge. Then, he washed the dishes. Walking out of the kitchen, he saw the couple's closed door. The two of them stayed in the room for half a day, occasionally coming out to get water. Ning Shu didn't care. Now that Wang Bo got a wife, he was very happy. It was normal for them to be sick of each other. Ning Shu wanted to make things difficult for Kai Anchi. When they got a divorce, he couldn't let her take away a large sum of money. It was obvious that Kai Anchi had too many miscarriages and couldn't get pregnant. She even blamed Wang Bo for the miscarriages and asked for a large sum of money. Yang Zi and Wang Bo were honest. Wang Bo wanted to get rid of Kai Anchi even if he had to give her money. Ning Shu returned to the room and sat cross-legged on the bed to start cultivating. Because this body had reached menopause, its endocrine imbalance made it feel uncomfortable. When it was time for dinner, Wang Bo and Kai Anchi came out of the room and sat on the sofa. Kai Anchi was playing with her phone while Wang Bo looked at her. Ning Shu put the leftovers from lunch back into the pot to reheat. The color of the dishes after reheating them didn't look good anymore. Moreover, they had become soft. One look and he lost his appetite. When Kai Anchi saw the dishes Ning Shu made, her face turned ugly. She was unhappy and sat down heavily on the chair. Wang Bo naturally saw that Kai Anchi was unhappy, but on one side was his mother, the mother he had depended on for more than 20 years, and on the other side was the woman he liked, his wife. Wang Bo was an honest man. He didn't know how to get out of this situation. When Kai Anchi saw Wang Bo's behavior, she was so angry that she wanted to die. This block of wood. Back then, she had thought that he was honest, but now, he wasn't honest at all. He was stupid. Ning Shu smiled and said, "Let's eat. There are still a lot of dishes left from lunch. I'll heat them up and eat." Kai Anchi picked up her chopsticks and looked at the dishes. She didn't know how to eat. She couldn't help but say, "Granny, these leftovers are not healthy at all. It's not good for your health to eat them." Ning Shu looked at Kai Anchi and said, are we going to throw away all these vegetables? These were all bought with money. It's not easy for Wang Bo to earn money. He should be more frugal. Kai Anchi curled her lips and retorted, earning money is for a better life. Then what's the point of earning money? Granny, you're too thrifty. If you eat these unhealthy dishes and get sick, all the money will be gone. It's not worth it. Don't you think so? Kai Anchi used her foot to touch Wang Bo's leg under the table. Wang Bo could only say, Mom, what Anchi said makes sense. Ning Shu glanced at Wang Bo and said, since you can't eat, why did you order so many dishes? Let's eat. If we can't finish it tonight, we'll continue tomorrow morning until we finish. Kai Anchi was so angry that she put down her chopsticks and went back to the bedroom. She slammed the bedroom door. Wang Bo quickly stood up. Ning Shu said gently, sit down and eat. When a family is together, there will always be conflicts. We need to get used to each other. Wang Bo could only sit down. Ning Shu said, it's not that I don't want to give you food. It's just that some waste is unnecessary. You should be more frugal in life. With some money, you can deal with some unexpected situations. She's living a comfortable life now. When something happens, it'll be useless even if she yells and screams. Kai Anchi's family isn't very well off. How can she be so extravagant in raising a daughter? Ning Shu said with a surprised expression. Wang Bo didn't know what to say. After a long silence, he said, Anchi just got married. I guess she's not used to it. Not used to it? Ning Shu saw that she was very used to it, so he didn't hold back. Let's eat. Ning Shu said to Wang Bo. Wang Bo looked at the bedroom and said, Mom, do you want me to call Anchi out for dinner? Ning Shu said with a kind face, she doesn't like to eat this kind of food. Don't call her. But. Wang Bo frowned tightly. He didn't dare to refute Ning Shu. He could only eat. But he ate very quickly. After a few mouthfuls of rice, he pushed the bowl and chopsticks away and went to the bedroom to see Kai Anchi. Ning Shu ate slowly alone. When he was full, he threw away the rest of the food. If you don't want to eat, don't eat. Anyway, there wasn't any food left. After tidying up, Ning Shu went back to his room to cultivate. Kai Anchi, who had slept until midnight, was very hungry. Plus, there was a fairy fight earlier. She was really hungry. Kai Anchi pushed Wang Bo beside her. Wang Bo asked with a nasal voice, what's wrong? I'm hungry. Go get me something to eat. Kai Anchi kicked Wang Bo's leg. It was really midnight. Wang Bo had to go to work tomorrow. Seeing Kai Anchi like this, Wang Bo could only sigh silently and get up. Kai Anchi smiled and got up from the bed. She sat at the table and waited for dinner. Wang Bo went to the kitchen and opened the fridge. There was no ready-made food in it. Wang Bo could only knock on Ning Shu's door. Ning Shu was cultivating when she heard the knock. She opened the door and saw Wang Bo. She then glanced at Kai Anchi who was sitting on a chair waiting to be fed. She asked, what's wrong? Mom, didn't you have a lot of leftovers before? Wang Bo asked Ning Shu. Anchi is hungry. I want to make her some fried rice. Ning Shu frowned and said, didn't Anchi say that leftovers were unhealthy? I threw them all away. There's no rice now. Didn't he not eat leftovers? I did. Wang Bo looked at Kai Anchi helplessly. Kai Anchi almost couldn't help but roll her eyes. She felt that this mother-in-law was really annoying. Knowing that she didn't eat, she threw away the leftovers and used her words to block her. Kai Anchi was flustered, but she had no reason to refute her. Ning Shu rubbed his forehead and said, you can cook noodles. My body isn't very good. You can open the fire. Ning Shu closed the door and went to sleep. Outside the door, Wang Bo and Kai Anchi looked at each other. Kai Anchi suppressed the anger in her heart and said coquettishly, "Wang Bo, I'm hungry." Wang Bo could only open the fire to cook noodles for Kai Anchi. He hurriedly made a bowl of noodles. The taste wasn't very good. The noodles were almost paste. Although Wang Bo was a child of a single-parent family, Yang Zi rarely let Wang Bo do housework. Yang Zi tried her best to take care of her son. Chapter 697. Yang Zi had a lot of opinions about this daughter-in-law. She raised her son with great difficulty, but the moment he married a daughter-in-law, he was ordered around by her. Yang Zi could tolerate it. After all, her son was in his 30s, and it wasn't easy for him to marry a daughter-in-law. If Kai Anchi wasn't willing to do anything, Yang Zi would do it. But what Yang Zi couldn't stand the most was Kai Anchi's heartlessness. She felt that her heart had been eaten by a dog. Kai Anchi was an egoist. She only cared about herself and never cared about others. Kai Anchi ate the noodles made by Wang Bo. It tasted terrible, and she was furious. Back then, she chose Wang Bo because she saw that Yang Zi and her son were kind. "Anchi, my mother is old. You have to bear with her." Wang Bo looked at Kai Anchi's unhappy face and explained, "It wasn't easy for my mother to raise me all these years. If she did anything wrong, I'll apologize to you first." Kai Anchi felt even worse when she heard Wang Bo saying, "my mother." In the past, she felt that Wang Bo was honest and dull. But now, she felt that he was a mother's boy. He listened to his mother in everything and had no opinions or confidence. He was indeed a child from a single-parent family. Kai Anchi pushed the bowl and chopsticks away and said angrily, "I'm not eating anymore." When Kai Anchi stood up, the chair made an ear-piercing sound. In the silent night, it was very ear-piercing. Kai Anchi entered the bedroom and said to Wang Bo, "You'll sleep on the sofa today." Wang Bo frowned and reached out to block Kai Anchi from closing the door. He said in a low voice, "Anchi, don't be like this. We just got married. Mom will be worried." Kai Anchi was even angrier when she heard this. "Are you going to live with me or your mother?" Kai Anchi slammed the door shut with a loud bang. Even Ning Shu, who was next door, felt the wall shake twice. Ning Shu's mouth twitched. Kai Anchi's temper couldn't be described as violent. It could only be said that she had Yang Zi and her son under control. She could be angry whenever she wanted to, and she didn't have any scruples. It was as if a toad had eaten a swan's meat. Marrying you was a stroke of luck. If I hadn't married you, would you have been able to find a wife? This was the difference between liking someone and not liking someone. If Kai Anchi really liked Wang Bo, she definitely wouldn't have done this. She didn't care about Wang Bo's feelings. Today's conflict was actually all because of Ning Shu. If it was the original owner, Yang Zi, if Kai Anchi was hungry and wanted to eat, she would definitely cook for Kai Anchi. However, Ning Shu didn't care about her at all. That was why Kai Anchi was so angry. She felt that she should be spoiled. Moreover, Wang Bo's food was so disgusting. Wang Bo stood at the door in loneliness. In the end, he could only lie down on the sofa in the living room. Ning Shu walked out of the room and saw her lying on the small sofa with a pillow on her head. She looked pitiful. Ning Shu's heart was filled with a feeling of heartache. This was the feeling of the original owner. "What's the matter?" Ning Shu asked Wang Bo. Wang Bo sat up from the sofa. When he saw Ning Shu, he quickly said, "Nothing." Ning Shu said, "Couples will always quarrel. Understand each other and slowly get used to each other." "Mom, I'm fine. Go to sleep," Wang Bo said with a gloomy face. Wang Bo's heart was not very comfortable. They just got married and he was kicked out of the bedroom. Moreover, it was inexplicable. He was simply making trouble for no reason. Ning Shu said, "You also go to sleep early. You have to go to work tomorrow." Ning Shu turned and went back to the room. The next morning, Ning Shu got up to prepare breakfast for Wang Bo. Wang Bo slept on the sofa for the whole night. His whole body was uncomfortable. He didn't sleep well and his face was a bit ugly. The bedroom door didn't open for the whole night. Wang Bo went to the bedroom door and knocked hard. After knocking for a while, Kai Anchi didn't open the door. Wang Bo's face became more and more ugly. He kept knocking. "What are you knocking for? It's so early in the morning." Kai Anchi opened the door and said angrily. Kai Anchi's hair was fluffy. She was wearing pajamas with suspenders on her arms. A large part of her chest was exposed. Facing Kai Anchi, Wang Bo subconsciously gave in. He didn't ask why she didn't open the door for so long. He said, "I'm going to change clothes and go to work." Wang Bo walked into the bedroom and saw that the floor was littered with snack bags, cola bottles, and bits of powder, making the room look dirty and messy. Wang Bo took a shower and changed clothes. He looked at Kai Anchi lying on the bed and said, "It's time for breakfast." Kai Anchi had been hungry for the whole night. Snacks couldn't fill her stomach. When she heard that it was time for breakfast, she didn't insist. She went out of the bedroom and sat at the table. Breakfast was steamed buns and soy milk that Ning Shu went out to buy. Kai Anchi sat down and picked up the steamed buns with chopsticks. It seemed that she was hungry last night. Ning Shu didn't say anything. Wang Bo sat next to Kai Anchi and ate breakfast silently. After eating, he said to Kai Anchi, "I'm going to work." Kai Anchi had a steamed bun in her mouth. She just waved at Wang Bo. Wang Bo frowned. Seeing that it was getting late, he could only go to work. Ning Shu saw that Wang Bo was unhappy when he left, but he didn't say anything. He looked at Kai Anchi who was drinking soy milk and eating fried dough sticks and said, "Anchi, come with me to buy groceries." Kai Anchi almost choked on the fried dough stick. She swallowed the fried dough stick in her mouth and said, "I don't know how to buy groceries." "Grandma, I don't need to go." Ning Shu had a smile on his face and said calmly, "You can learn if you don't know how to. I'll tell you that the groceries there are cheap and fresh." Kai Anchi curled her lips. "I'm not going to learn. You're going to live with Wang Bo in the future. I can still help now. When I'm old and can't move, you'll definitely be the one doing the laundry and cooking." Ning Shu said lightly. Kai Anchi's face turned green. Doing laundry and cooking. She still had to take care of this family. Kai Anchi said, "Grandma, you're too old-fashioned. It's the age of the internet. You can eat anything you want. Just a phone call and you can eat." Ning Shu raised his eyebrows, "Ordering takeout for the rest of your life? Granny, let me do the math for you. Every day, you'll have to pay for water, electricity, gas, meat, vegetables, oil, and you'll have to cook every day. So, it's more cost-effective to order meals." Kai Anchi counted with her fingers and said shrewdly. Ning Shu smiled, "If it's New Year's Eve or if it's a treat at home, do you think it's appropriate to order takeout? Since you're married, you should keep your heart in check. Today, come with me to buy groceries." Ning Shu said unquestionably. Kai Anchi's face was unhappy. After eating, she went back to her room and locked the door. Obviously, she didn't want to go to the market with Ning Shu. Ning Shu washed the dishes and went to knock on the door. Ning Shu knocked for a while, but Kai Anchi didn't open the door. Chapter 698. Ning Shu knocked on the door loudly, but Kai Anchi couldn't hear her, as if she was deaf. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows, found the key, and opened the bedroom door. Kai Anchi was naked, with no underwear on. She had headphones on and was typing on the keyboard. Then she touched her body with her hands. She rubbed her front. Kai Anchi was chatting with someone naked. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu walked over and patted Kai Anchi's shoulder. Kai Anchi was so scared that her whole body spasmed. She turned around and saw Ning Shu. She quickly closed the laptop, covered her chest, and used one hand to cover her lower body. She was in a mess. Ning Shu sneered. She could even show it to men, but she was still acting like this in front of a woman. Ning Shu said indifferently, "What are you doing? You're not even wearing clothes." Kai Anchi couldn't hear what Ning Shu said. She quickly took off her headphones and preemptively asked Ning Shu, "Why didn't you knock before entering my room?" Ning Shu looked at Kai Anchi's body. Kai Anchi quickly took her clothes and rushed into the bathroom to put them on. Kai Anchi, who had put on her clothes, didn't look good. She said guiltily, "Why didn't you knock?" "I knocked. I knocked for a long time, but you didn't hear me." Ning Shu asked, "Why aren't you wearing clothes?" I was chatting with my best friend." Kai Anchi lied. "It's a kind of game between sisters." Mother-in-law, you wouldn't understand." Ning Shu, ha 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 ha, just talk. Take off your clothes and chat. Do you think others are stupid? Ning Shu just looked at Kai Anchi. Kai Anchi was a little uneasy under her gaze. She said, "Mother-in-law. Mom, why are you looking for me?" Ning Shu said, "Come with me to buy groceries." Kai Anchi was caught doing something bad. She felt very guilty and could only agree to go to the market with Ning Shu to buy groceries. Ning Shu asked Kai Anchi to take the basket, and the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law went out to buy vegetables. Kai Anchi was worried that her mother-in-law would tell Wang Bo about this. Ning Shu asked, "Mother-in-law," Kai Anchi didn't know what to say. She couldn't just ask this old woman if she knew what she was doing just now. Looking at Kai Anchi's constipated expression, Ning Shu sneered in his heart and asked, "What's the matter?" Kai Anchi quickly shook her head. "I'm fine." It was the dog days of summer. Even in the morning, it was still very hot. Kai Anchi was sweating profusely from the sun. Moreover, she walked to the market under the sun. It was simply terrible. Kai Anchi was furious. She wanted to smash the basket on Ning Shu's head, but she didn't dare. She could only follow Ning Shu obediently. When Kai Anchi saw how relaxed Ning Shu was walking, she felt as if a cat was scratching her heart. It was not easy to get to the market. Kai Anchi's clothes were almost wet with sweat. In this kind of weather, she should stay at home and enjoy the air conditioner. Every time Ning Shu passed by a vegetable stall, she would pick and choose. Kai Anchi was very impatient beside her. Ning Shu said, "The vegetables here are very fresh, and I know the boss. I'm talking to you. Do you hear me?" Ning Shu said to Kai Anchi. Kai Anchi was so hot that she kept fanning herself with her hands. When she heard Ning Shu's words, she nodded casually. "I'll remember." After choosing half of a winter melon and putting it in the basket, Kai Anchi exclaimed and carried the heavy basket with both hands. Ning Shu continued to stroll in the market. Kai Anchi carried the heavy basket and followed Ning Shu. Her face was pale with exhaustion. Ning Shu took a long time to pick the vegetables. Kai Anchi carried the basket. Her palms were red and she was very angry. She really wanted to throw the basket on the ground. Ning Shu chose an old hen. The live old hen was put in a bag. Ning Shu stuffed it into Kai Anchi's hands. Kai Anchi smelled the stench and felt uncomfortable all over. Ning Shu bought some vegetables one after another. The heavy ones were given to Kai Anchi. He carried the light ones himself. Kai Anchi's face became paler. She was hot and sad. She was carrying so many things in her hands. After strolling in the market for almost an hour, Kai Anchi stumbled with the things in her hands. Coming out of the market, she had to walk back to the community. Kai Anchi wanted to die. She cursed Ning Shu who was walking in front of her in her heart. She was a fucking evil mother-in-law. She said that she was honest, but she was obviously bad. Ning Shu naturally saw Kai Anchi's pale and resentful face. He did not say anything. She wouldn't be like the original owner, treating her with respect. They met an acquaintance in the community garden. Ning Shu introduced her to Kai Anchi. This is Auntie Li from the 5th floor. Auntie Li, Kai Anchi shouted. Auntie Li looked Kai Anchi up and down. She smiled and said, "Your wife is very beautiful. She's shopping with you." Ning Shu had a peaceful smile on his face. "She's a good girl. She went grocery shopping with me in the morning. She said that I'm old and even helped me carry things." Kai Anchi roared in her heart. "Who wants to go grocery shopping with you? Who wants to help you carry things? Oh, you also bought an old hen?" Auntie Li said. Ning Shu nodded. "I bought a chicken to nourish the child's body. After nourishing the body, she will be pregnant." Auntie Li looked at Kai Anchi. "She's a bit thin. She needs more nourishment. Nourishment your head." It was not easy for her to maintain such a perfect figure. She was not a sow, she could not give birth to children whenever she wanted. Kai Anchi was very annoyed. She listened to these two old women mumbling non-stop. The weather was hot and she was sweating. She had so many things in her hands that it hurt. "Your mother-in-law is a good person. You are lucky to have such a generous mother-in-law," Auntie Li said to Kai Anchi. Kai Anchi's mouth twitched. "What good person?" "Huh," Kai Anchi said to Ning Shu, "Mom, I'll send the things up first." Ning Shu nodded and said to Auntie Li, "Let's play mahjong together later. I'll leave first." Because they lived on a higher floor, they often met acquaintances when climbing the stairs. Ning Shu would introduce his daughter-in-law to these people. They would talk for a long time once they started talking. Kai Anchi could only watch these people talk. She was so tired that her heart was about to break down. Kai Anchi's mouth was dry and sweat rolled down her body. She felt like she was going to get a heat stroke. In the blink of an eye, it was almost 11 o'clock when she got home. Once she got home, Kai Anchi quickly put down the things in her hands. She raised her hands and saw that her palms were red from the pressure. Kai Anchi gulped down 2 cups of water and prepared to take a bath and lie down. She had never been so tired. Ning Shu stopped Kai Anchi and said, "Come and kill the chicken with me. Help me pluck the feathers." Kai Anchi looked at Ning Shu in disbelief. She did not want to do this kind of thing. She said angrily, "I don't know how to." Chapter 699. Kai Anchi never thought that Ning Shu would ask her to kill a chicken and pluck its feathers. She was a fashionable and beautiful person. Why would she do such a thing? Kai Anchi quickly shook her head. "I won't. I really won't." She felt horrified just thinking about it. "You can learn if you don't know. You'll slowly learn," Ning Shu said lightly. "I'm going to boil some water. Come and help me later. I'll ask Wang Bo to come back and try your cooking at noon." "Grandma, I really won't do such a thing," Kai Anchi said helplessly, but she was cursing Ning Shu in her heart. Why would she do such a thing? Kai Anchi regretted choosing this family. They looked honest, but in fact, they were thinking of ways to torture people. Kai Anchi rolled her eyes and said, "I'm suffering from a heat stroke." Ning Shu looked at Kai Anchi and said, "There's medicine for relieving heat. Essential balm mixed with Huaxiang Jingqi water." Ning Shu said as she took out the Huaxiang Vital Energy water and essential balm oil. She cut open the bottle of Huaxiang Vital Energy water and handed it to Kai Anchi. Drink a small bottle of Wuxia Vital Energy water first and apply some essential balm oil on it. Kai Anqi looked at the Wuxia Jingqi water in Ning Shu's hand. Just looking at the color was unbearable. She quickly waved her hand and said, "I'll be fine after lying down. I don't want to drink this." Ning Shu's face changed. He stuffed the Wuxia Jingqi water into Kai Anqi's hand and said, "Drink it. You're my daughter-in-law. Wang Bo will feel sorry for you if you're sick." "Grandma, I don't want to drink it." Kai Anqi wanted to throw it away. "Didn't you suffer from a heat stroke? Drink it." Ning Shu held Kai Anqi's hand and poured the Wuxia Jingqi water into her mouth. Kai Anqi was forced to drink 2 mouthfuls. Suddenly, an indescribable taste rushed into her mouth. There was also a smell of alcohol. When she drank it, she felt a burning sensation in her stomach. Kai Anqi coughed twice and almost cried. Ning Shu took the essential balm and said, "Apply some on your temples." Kai Anqi waved her hand. "I feel much better after drinking this. I don't need to apply it." "That's good." Ning Shu smiled gently. "I'll go get some hot water and help kill the chicken later." Kai Anqi's heart was about to explode. She wanted to fall out with this old woman, but she remembered that she had been caught red-handed. The old woman probably didn't know what she was doing, but there was no guarantee that she wouldn't tell Wang Bo. Although Wang Boren was honest and loyal, he was still a young man. Kai Anqi still didn't want to give up on Wang Bo. Wang Bo had a good temper and could be hit or scolded. As long as she apologized and softened her attitude, he wouldn't mind. Kai Anqi could only walk towards the kitchen helplessly. Ning Shu boiled some hot water and took out the chicken from the bag. The chicken's feet were tied and it was lying on the ground. Ning Shu saw Kai Anqi standing at the door and said, "Come in quickly." Kai Anqi reluctantly entered the kitchen. Ning Shu closed the kitchen door. Kai Anqi asked, "Why did you close the door?" "Lest chickens fly everywhere." Kai Anqi became even more irritable. "Let's kill the chicken first." Ning Shu stuffed the kitchen knife into Kai Anqi's hand and picked up the hen. He said to Kai Anqi, "Pluck some of the feathers from the chicken's neck. It'll be easier to bleed later." Kai Anqi looked at the hen that was making cooing sounds. Her heart trembled. She reached out her hand to pluck the feathers, but the hen pecked at her hand. Kai Anqi suddenly screamed in pain. The back of her hand was bruised by the hen's peck. Ning Shu sighed. "Why didn't you grab the chicken's head first before plucking the feathers?" Kai Anqi was furious. "Why didn't you say it first? Why did you grab the chicken's head with the kitchen knife in your other hand?" "Grandma, my hand hurts. I don't want to kill the chicken." Kai Anqi said pitifully. Ning Shu didn't care and said, "It's okay. The first time I killed a chicken, I cut my hand." Kai Anqi could see that this old woman wanted her to kill the chicken. Kai Anqi cursed Ning Shu's 18 generations of ancestors in her heart. She looked at the hen with a particularly fierce gaze. She pulled the hen's head and violently plucked its feathers, causing the hen's neck to bleed. "Okay, now take the knife and cut the chicken's neck to bleed," Ning Shu said. Kai Anqi picked up the kitchen knife. She didn't cut the hen's throat like Ning Shu said. Instead, she used the kitchen knife to chop off the hen's neck. Blood splashed everywhere. Kai Anqi's face was also splashed with blood. Kai Anqi screamed, threw away the kitchen knife, and turned on the tap to wash her face. Ning Shu put the hen in a basin and scalded it with hot water. It would be easier to pluck the feathers later. "Okay, now you can pluck the feathers," Ning Shu said to Kai Anqi. Kai Anqi felt that she was about to collapse. She gritted her teeth and squatted down to pluck the feathers. The chicken was a little smelly. After being scalded by the hot water, the stench was emitted. There seemed to be the stench of chicken poop. Kai Anqi was about to vomit. She tilted her head and plucked the feathers. Ning Shu only glanced at her indifferently and continued to cut the vegetables leisurely. Kai Anchi looked at her hands. She had painstakingly done her nails. The bright diamonds on them had all fallen off. Because her nails were too long, they would break if she didn't pay attention. It was very painful. Kai Anchi was so annoyed that she was about to die. She plucked the chicken's feathers. Anchi, you have to pluck some of the small feathers. Ning Shu instructed Kai Anchi. Kai Anchi was speechless. Kai Anchi's face was pale. Because she rarely did such things, she felt very uncomfortable. In addition, it was the dog days of summer. Kai Anchi was very tired carrying so many things. It wasn't easy to pluck the feathers. When Kai Anchi stood up, she saw stars and almost couldn't stand. Ning Shu said, "Wash the chicken, then cut it open and take out the internal organs." Kai Anchi directly ran out of the kitchen and rushed to the bathroom to vomit. Ning Shu smiled slightly. He put the hen in the sink and took care of the internal organs. When Kai Anchi came out of the bathroom, her face was pale. Seeing Ning Shu take the chicken out, she sighed in relief. Then she heard Ning Shu say, "Wash your hands and come over to cook." Kai Anchi immediately said, "I won't do it. I don't know how." Ning Shu smiled kindly and said, "It's okay. You'll learn slowly." "I don't want to learn." Kai Anchi was very uncomfortable now. She wanted to lie down and rest. Ning Shu still smiled kindly. "Hurry up. It's almost noon. Wang Bo will come back for lunch. He will be very happy to eat the food you cook." Kai Anchi's chest rose and fell. Her face was a little ferocious. She roared in her heart. Who was Wang Bo to let her cook for him? Ning Shu looked at Kai Anchi indifferently. Kai Anchi gritted her teeth and walked into the kitchen to wash her hands and cook. Ning Shu ordered her, "Pour the oil. Turn down the heat. The oil is smoking. Hurry up and pour the vegetables." Kai Anchi hurriedly threw the vegetables into the pot. As a result, the oil spilled out and splashed Kai Anchi's body. It was summer and she didn't wear much. It hurt when the oil splashed on her body. Some even splashed on her face. Kai Anchi was so scared that she directly threw the spatula into the pot and ran out of the kitchen. Chapter 700. Ning Shu asked Kai Anchi to cook. When Kai Anchi was splashed with oil, she immediately rushed to the bathroom and washed herself with cold water. She was afraid that there would be ugly scars on her body. Ning Shu saw that Kai Anchi ran away without a care. He took the spatula and cooked. He put in some simple seasoning and turned off the fire. "Let me see if you're scalded." Ning Shu went into the bathroom and asked Kai Anchi. Kai Anchi's face was very ugly. Her white and tender skin was going to have a scar. "If you're fine, continue cooking," Ning Shu said. Kai Anchi was angry. "I said I don't know how to cook. Why do you insist that I do it? If you don't have money to order, I'll pay for it myself." Ning Shu had a wide smile on his face and looked very kind. "Anchi, this is not a matter of money. Wang Bo has to work to support the family. You don't have to work, so you should take care of the family." Kai Anchi looked at the old woman's fake smile and cursed the hypocritical old woman in her heart. Kai Anchi's face was very ugly. Should I be a haggard woman who does the housework? Why? Responsibility. Since you're married to Wang Bo, you have a responsibility to the family. Ning Shu said, "Husband and wife have different responsibilities. It's your job to take care of the family. Of course, you can go out and find a job. I'll take care of the family." Kai Anchi sneered and said with malice, "You make it sound so nice. You've done your duty to the family, but in the end, you become a haggard woman who was dumped by your husband. Ning Shu's heart twitched and anger emerged in his heart. Ning Shu's face turned cold and said coldly, "Do you think my son can't be without you, so you're so unscrupulous?" Kai Anchi saw that Ning Shu was angry, but she was not afraid. The most annoying thing was that she looked like a good person. She said proudly, "You can also ask Wang Bo to divorce me. I don't care." Ning Shu just looked at Kai Anchi silently and asked, "You don't want to do the housework?" Kai Anchi raised her chin and said, "I don't want to be a haggard woman who only knows how to do housework all day." Ning Shu nodded and said, "That means we'll be ordering in the future." "Yes, just order." Kai Anchi said with disdain. "If you don't want to pay, then I will." "Alright, let's order then." "Since you said you'll pay, then you'll pay." Ning Shu said indifferently. Kai Anchi suddenly choked in her heart. Ning Shu went back to the kitchen and chopped up the chicken to make soup. Kai Anchi curled her lips and went back to her bedroom to rest. She was really exhausted today. Ning Shu stewed the chicken soup and waited for Kai Anchi to order the other dishes. Ning Shu went to knock on Kai Anchi's door. Kai Anchi had just taken a shower and was lying down. She opened the door angrily and asked impatiently, "What's wrong now?" "Wang Bo will be back for lunch soon." "Let's order the food," Ning Shu said. Kai Anchi curled her lips and took out her phone to order the food. She ordered quite a lot of dishes. Ning Shu didn't say anything. After all, she wasn't the one who was paying. Kai Anchi raised her phone and said proudly, "You see, a matter that can be solved with a phone call. Why is it so troublesome?" Ning Shu smiled slightly. He hoped that when he gave the money later, his heart wouldn't bleed. Not long after, the food delivery man came. Ning Shu said to Kai Anchi, "Pay up." Kai Anchi's face suddenly turned ugly. She stood still and the food delivery man stood at the door waiting to collect the money. Ning Shu said with a smile, "I'll pay. You come with me tomorrow to buy groceries and cook. This way, it's fresh and cost-effective." Kai Anchi stomped her feet and snorted. She went back to her bedroom and took out her wallet. She took out a few red notes from her wallet and gave them to the food delivery man. Ning Shu saw that Kai Anchi's wallet was a famous brand. A wallet cost thousands. She was really rich. Kai Anchi, who gave the money, didn't look good. She deliberately made some noise when she walked. Ning Shu acted as if he didn't hear anything. He called Wang Bo and asked him to come back for dinner. When Wang Bo came back from work, he saw a table full of delicious food. Ning Shu asked, "Did you order the food?" Ning Shu nodded, and she doesn't want to cook. She said that she will order food in the future. Wang Bo frowned and said, "How much is this?" Wang Bo was a working man. The pressure of supporting the family was on him. The food on the table was a few hundred yuan. His daily salary was a few hundred yuan. Kai Anchi heard Wang Bo's words when she came out of the bedroom. Her face darkened. She pulled out a chair and sat down. "I'm the one paying, not you." Kai Anchi's face was cold. Her words were very rude. It was very embarrassing. Wang Bo couldn't help but look at his mother. Ning Shu acted as if he didn't hear anything and was pouring soup. Wang Bo felt very embarrassed. He didn't know how to refute Kai Anchi. His nose trembled as he took a deep breath and said, "Anchi, thank you." When Ning Shu heard this, he really wanted to pour a bowl of chicken soup on Wang Bo's face. "Thank you." Kai Anchi snorted and picked up the bowl to eat. Wang Bo could only eat. Wang Bo ate very quickly. Ning Shu put the chicken soup in front of Wang Bo and said, "Drink it." Anchi killed this chicken soup. She stewed it for you. Wang Bo's face immediately showed a smile. He said to Kai Anchi, "Thank you." Kai Anchi nodded. Wang Bo drank a bowl of chicken soup and went to work after dinner. After dinner, Kai Anchi pushed the bowl away and went back to her bedroom, locking the door from the inside. Ning Shu saw that there was a lot of food left on the table. He poured it out and cleaned it up. He went into the room to practice his ultimate martial arts. For half a day, Kai Anchi and Ning Shu didn't talk much. They both locked themselves in the room. In the evening, Wang Bo was about to get off work. Ning Shu knocked on Kai Anchi's door and said, "It's night time. It's time to order." "Order again? Didn't we just order at noon?" Kai Anchi raised her voice. Ning Shu smiled kindly and said, "You said leftovers were unhealthy, so I threw them all away." "You threw away so many dishes?" Kai Anchi was very angry. "I didn't use your money. Why are you so wasteful?" "Haha, you didn't feel bad when you used other people's money. You only know the pain when you poke your own body." Ning Shu's expression didn't change. "You were the one who ordered. You said leftovers were bad for the body, so I threw them away." "You." Kai Anchi was so angry that her chest heaved up and down. She cursed in her heart. This old woman. To hell with being honest. She was obviously an evil mother-in-law. Ning Shu's expression didn't change. He said, "It's night time. It's time to order." Kai Anchi grabbed Ning Shu's arm and said coquettishly, "Mother-in-law, your cooking is delicious. I like eating your cooking the most. Moreover, the food at home is clean and hygienic." Ning Shu had a kind smile on his face. He gently patted Kai Anchi's hand that was hanging on his arm and said, "You are also a woman. You should know that at my age, menopause makes my body uncomfortable. Cooking is too difficult." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.